FM, the I. Get social with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Our handle is Eagle FM Namibia.
Eagle FM, the I.
No matter where you are, if you have a mobile device, you can tune into Namibia's #1 talk radio station by downloading the Eagle FM app on the Google Play Store or on the Apple App Store. Download the Eagle FM app to tune into live Eagle FM programming or to listen to podcasts of previous broadcasts. Eagle FM, Namibia's #1 talk radio station.
Omutiha gutekirwa kaguna matina omjo. Chikao shafathana na nalo ngeshifa ya ishiwike moshiwana. Iye moyao ota ingongotisa mwene. Ana ngeshifa ya Namibia.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Sime, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional, and church events. And basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081-270-3727 or the office number 083-288-400. Eagle FM, the I.
Lipuranengeno wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondo tuto ingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile. Oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo iho etike kovano ile koshiwana. Onongeshe fa ya pumbwa kukaraya kovano. Okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka. Okukwetera oipindi konu kondado inawa. Nuneudo otukwetera o speciala ngeta shake ngeshe fa omarudi dayo loka. Opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamoili nawa. Ninge pata fanona Monica ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile ko mberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
And welcome, dear listeners, to this Monday session, specifically of ULWAZI, once again, where we have Mr. Francisco Neshila in studio here with us, primarily also to bring us a discussion, obviously, that much of it revolves around land. And for today's particular discussion, I'm going to hand over to him right now, but I would like Francisco just to say hello. I don't know if you want to give a shout out, Francisco, but please don't. Please, but you can. But please don't. But you can. How you doing? Welcome. Nice to meet you as well. Specifically, because it's the first time we're meeting. But specifically starting off on this Monday,
Yeah, nice meeting you, and thank you very much again for having me. Yes, I think it's pretty much very much a jam-packed discussion today. As we are going to look into the National Urban Land Policy, which a lot of people are not pretty much aware what is really happening and what is government busy doing, and we really want to give a perspective on the urban land policy and how basically it came about. Now, we all know that some time back we had the second National Land Conference that took place in Windhoek, and one of the preamble or the extraction of the second National Land Conference was that Namibia needs an urban land policy to be able to address certain aspects of land related issues, and that is basically what we are going to unpack, extracting the relevant data from the guidelines of the National Land Conference. Now, when you talk about land policy, I think one needs to appreciate in terms of to understand what were the pre-colonial aspects of policies that have taken place, since we are looking as back as the 1800s, And then while the dispossessions, when you look at land dispossessions, it happened around about 1884 to 1890. And then basically now in 1920, then we experienced the German settlers. And that's where basically during the war process, that's when they came in. And obviously a lot of land aspects happened there. Now, during the German era, colonial era, there's something quite interesting that happened in that space. And as much as colonialization is quite a very bad thing, so we do not want to use the land issues as if it is we want to glorify it. But there's a very important aspects that happen because the Germans were the first one to establish townlands. So which is something, and there's something that continued until today, which is part of our title deeds and land conversations. And that is probably one of the interesting aspects. They created
urban centers, basically.
Yeah, basically they created urban centers because they knew that, for instance, farmers, they need a concentrated area to do goods, to give services to the farmers and the rural community. So that is now what really transpired during the German aspect. Then obviously, then in 1925. Then obviously South Africa started encroaching into our territory, and that's now where basically they started the apartheid era aspect. That's where basically now, and that's where the segregation aspects came in. So the townlands was there, but then there was too much proximity between the affluent and the non-affluent people. So obviously the segregation basically started, and that is where that whole land commotion is Kakurukade Mukunda. That is basically then what happened. Then coming back to 1992, that's now where we first have our first National Land Conference, basically now to unpack some of the aspects. That's basically after that. Now they said, okay, we now have townlands, but the question is, how do we guide the townlands? Then we brought in the Local Authorities Act, basically then to govern the townlands aspects in that equivalent to that space, and then obviously moving forward, moving slightly backwards. Actually, I read now the data. I think
no, don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay. Basically, from 1925, we then move into 1955. That is where the South Africans now basically took control, and basically now between 1925 to 1955, that's where the basically South African influence then came in. Now then, and then in 1964, that's when we have the Odendaal Plan. But now this is now the positive aspects also of the apartheid aspect, because there were now a lot of land issues.
I'll just tell the listeners, guys, look at it from a town planning, not from the human rights discussions.
Yeah. Yes. Now this Odendaal Plan, so there are smaller towns that were really struggling in terms of growth. So what the Odendaal Commission plan said, that is where your housing initiative also came about for the locals to get housing, your Katutura aspects. That's where it comes from. It's an Odendaal initiative. Now for areas like Chess and those areas, Beersheba, that were very much surrounded by commercial farm. So basically the Odendaal Plan equally expropriated land from the white people itself to be able to establish townlands to areas that didn't have townlands since the German era, which means that they equally adopted what was good from the German land administrative perspective. So, and then they brought in that Odendaal Plan. Yes, of course, there's a lot of
so that's why we get all those village councils like Tes, like Kalkrant, like Arwap.
Yes,
all those smaller guys. Yeah.
Yes. So it's basically it's an Odendaal influence, the commission that brought that about. And then obviously now comes 1990, and that's now where we have our independence, and things started now looking up. And then 91, that's the Local Authorities Act. Then obviously the redressing of the land issues, and then came into 1992. And then moving forward, in 1995, we got the Agricultural Land Reforms Act. And then obviously in 1998, we got the National Land Policy.
Yeah.
Moving into 2000, that's where we got the Communal Lands Reforms Act. All these acts now equally so they are being consolidated under the
current land bill.
Yeah. And then obviously to reintegrate the affected communities into the farming. So we now have the National Resettlement Policy that was drafted in 2001. While in 2012, the government obviously now the urban pressure started coming up. Then land was very, very expensive. So there was a lot of discussions around it. And then obviously the Flexible Land Tenure Act, basically the discussions then started around that. I think it was approved somewhere, is it in the 2000s, in the 2016 or something. So needs to get my bearings correct there. Yeah, so coming into 2018, that's now where we got the new document which we call the Urban and Regional Planning Act, that is basically governing the townlands and how it's being established as well. And that's also the time where we have the second National Land Conference. 2003 to 2023, 2024, the National Housing Policy was then reviewed and adopted. And then in 2025, that's it was approved in 2025. And then obviously now 2024, that's where the National Urban Land Policy started giving it. The government introduced the urban land policy. It has not been approved yet, but it's under discussion. It has been validated. It went through the regions of different stakeholders. Basically now what is holding its back is the implementation plan. What is the cost to implement a policy? So, and then obviously it will then be a submission to cabinet. And subsequently to that, 2025, the government also then started the initiative of the National Spatial Development Framework. The National Spatial Development Framework, it basically deals with development concerning with mining rights, conservancies, and it cuts across.
So it basically sort of like you now were about to say, cuts across like the mandate of like 3 or 4 ministries. From agriculture to urban and rural to environment to industries, mines and energy.
Works
and transport, basically, yes. So it's massive.
Fisher, yes, it's massive. And myself, I'm also very fortunate then to be part of this team formulating the Spatial Development Framework. And I'm also the lead consultant in the urban land policy that we are going to discuss today. And the last aspect is basically that the ministry is also currently busy with the rural policy that is under review. The 2012 rural policy is basically currently now under review, so that that ministry can look into how effective it was, and what will be the outcome, and what are the new proposals. So where I see where that is going, we're probably going to look into that. Eventually, I think the end goal is to have an act that is governing rural areas. But obviously, depending on what are the stakeholders' input and interest around that. Yeah. Now, as I said, that was basically a brief overview of the development policies since the 1800s up to 2026. As I said, the ULWAZI show is here to give you perspective in collaboration with Eagle FM, so that you are able to understand what is happening in the country from a data development and policy perspective. Now, looking into the urban land policy, there are three strategic aspects that it was formulated, which is the generic consideration of optical to unlock access to urban land, fast-tracking land acquisition, optimizing land delivery, unlocking access to land, adopting integrated approach of development planning, promoting proactive land use development management, and sustainable urbanization. Now, these are the six thematic areas. Now, out of those 6 thematic areas, we then develop like 18 programs. Of this 18 programs is basically now what we're going to discuss and look into a more in-depth aspect as to what is it all about. But listeners must feel free to call in if they so wish. We are more than welcome to take your calls if there's something that you don't understand. But in the meantime, we will continue to provide the in-depth around it. Now, on point number 1, the program says comprehensive urban land information system development. Now, subsequently to this, I think it's through the social media on the platform of Eagle FM, where the mayor of the city of Windhoek highlighted that we need to make decision that is informed by data. So meaning that we need to have the systems.
Yeah.
And as I said, ULWAZI is very much data-oriented talk show, and that is basically equally so what we are bringing forth. Now, when you do any policy or formulating a policy, one of the struggling aspects is to get access to data.
In Namibia, yeah.
Yeah.
I was so surprised. You know what, Francisco? I was so surprised of last week now when you highlight the cumulative value of property sales and purchases in Oshakati. Because you will hear the investment houses in Namibia just announcing Windhoek and the coast. Windhoek and the coast. Now, it seems like there's nothing happening anywhere else.
Yeah, and we want to change the narrative. As I said, on this platform, on this program, we have all the data countrywide any given day. Just give us a call. We will be able to assist you. If not immediately, definitely after hours, we will be able to assist you. Now this data systems then what it will is for instance that we have a lot of speculators.
Yeah.
When I'm saying speculators is developers who are taking chances. They will apply land, Grootfontein, Tsume, Pondangwa, or Shakati, all over. So, and because the Namibian government is so friendly, you just draft a letter and say, I want to develop houses. And obviously the local authority
and then you show the benevolence. I'm doing this in terms of meeting the mass housing need.
Yes.
I'm obviously going to sell it at some sort of a market price. We will obviously know afterwards.
Now, obviously, any local authority to someone who wants to develop the town, so basically they take an emotional decision around it to say, no, please, we need this. Here is a letter of intent. And then they allocate you a certain portion of land with an X amount, and you can hold on to that land. If the local authority wants to revoke it, it becomes a very political discussion.
Yeah.
Now, once you have such a system, so everyone who's having a letter of intent of development within the Namibian context of boundary, you will be able then to detect. So when you are having a conversation with that particular developer or entities to say, but you have all those other developments, have you done something? Why are you now interested with us? Yeah. So now once you have that integrated system, when you are able to assess, I think a lot of we can deal with a lot of to reduce the aspects of speculation. So these guys, they become land barons and they basically hold land.
Yeah.
And that is now having all those land information systems, we can basically deal with these issues and allow development to fast track so that people are not so much, because you can't have 3 intent letters in 6 or 10 different towns and yet you are unable to do anything waiting for a certain investor to come and use an intent letter to change ownership, and you basically recoup a certain founding fee per se. So this land information system is very critical. So it needs to happen across public sector and private sector. Then obviously through this system, once you have such a very, very rich, full of data, so that means also you need to have a data center that is in control of by government to ensure that data is saved and it's shared with everyone. Now, looking into the second program, which is the joint venture urban land development. Now, I really want to give credit to Ondangwa Town Council, because they became one of the first town councils to have a PPP approved for housing. I think that is really the rest of the development that we've been seeing. It's very much joint ventures, but now we have a blueprint established by Ondangwa Town Council, and for them to undertake the PPP aspect. And then what is also very interesting, what has been happening in the background, the City of Windhoek and the Ministry of Urban and Regional Planning also went into a debt swap, basically for land. So I think there was an X amount, maybe in excess of 300 million, and then they gave like 11 township or 15 townships to I'm speaking under correction, to the Ministry of Urban, basically to fast track. Now, once the Ministry of Urban is in possession of this land, they will then allocate it to interested stakeholders, NGOs, to be able to fast track housing and land delivery. So, and big ups for such an initiative between the ministry and the city of Windhoek officials. I think it's something very commendable, and it should happen more often. And obviously, what the urban land policy then is also advocating for is to say we should have a land acquisition task force. Yeah, and that is basically, but we should not have a task force that is there for when there is a crisis. So it must be a continuous thing, because we cannot always commission reports, because land transaction changes very quickly. So your transaction volumes per year on a national level, you are looking into a 1.5 billion to 2 billion in terms of market value. Now, every 6 months, the land dynamics is different. Now, there's always such a huge gap. After 5 years, it's another crisis again. A new generation, they've come into the market, and obviously they are raising their voices, and the leadership needs to respond. And the quickest way to respond is to establishing a task force or a commission, as the current president has done, which is a very noble idea, but I think it should also be on a permanent basis.
Sort of like giving them like a designated office, designated staff to say, listen, churn out these reports that we know.
Yeah. Just like similar to the land board that deals very much of communal and commercial land. So we need such aspects equally so on a national level for the urban land issue. So it should become a permanent. I do hope the leadership is listening, and we are moving into that direction. Then the other issue that always have been being a battle in communal areas, and as some of our listeners have been calling in, is regarding the just compensation awareness into development planning. Just compensation. So what we're saying now, I always narrated to a lady that got displaced from Ongwediva. So when she was displaced because of the urban townland expansion, she then moved into the area of Okongo. And at the time, Okongo was not an
urban settlement.
An urban settlement.
Yeah.
So it then became a town. Then this lady says, now I need to move again. So it's creating a huge displacement factor. Now, so her voice in that aspect is like, okay, pay funding pen evacuate. Where will I go now? Every time I'm accommodating urban expansion. The question is, what about us? When are we going to have a sense of belonging to say, I'm now settled and this is where I want to grow old? So now, during this process, her knowledge also and her understanding the value of money that she was given at the time when she moved from Ongwediva, she realized that she has to work harder to bring herself back to the standard of living what she had in Ongwediva before she relocated. And these are issues that sometimes it's not being discussed in the different platform. And you will see now there's a lot of fight backs between the town councils and the surrounding rural community. But because the government also implemented the revised policy of the compensation policy that is being revised. Now, I do not know what is the current bill in terms of the compensation policy standing. But we were very fortunate enough to have done an establishment in Ndiona, in the Kavango East region. And one of the key issues during that stakeholders engagement was that we are still waiting for compensation. So why should you give you more land to develop if you have not even settled
the first particular responsibility?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the government is really doing its best to address these issues, but this wage bill of compensation is quite high because some of the areas don't have the money. So and government needs to make provision within their budgetary allocation.
So it's more like the constituency or the regional office basically that has to carry that burden.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and really big ups to the officers in the regional offices. They are dealing with quite a lot, and we don't thank them enough as to how we should what the work they are doing in those spaces. And I think equally so that the professionals must also be in cognizant that let's rather integrate people into that urban settlement than rather to relocate them. Yeah, and I will get to the land ownership aspect later into the program for better overview. Now on point number 5, where in the programs is the urban land development and financing. So what we're proposing in the urban land policy is to say that the local authorities must be given the chance to raise their capital. So now the question is, how do you then raise capital? So you can either register a bond through the statutory processes. You do a pitch, you register 200 million rand bond, or you can then appoint a venture capital or this investment manager to be able to allow you. Now, if the local authority have a very small township and the development of that township is run about, say, let's say it's 10 million to service the land and all that. Now, any member of the community in that particular town, you can come off your ATM card and you go to the finance department at the town council and you take your ATM card and you swipe your 2,000 and then basically you get a share certificate. So that the community must have access to effective participation in the land development, irrespective on how much you have. So if people at an early stage start participating in that space, you are able then to build leverage and equity for you to be able to purchase a property at the later stage when the time is right for you to purchase. So those are the provisions that we are trying to make into the urban land policy, that everyone in the community must be able to participate irrespective of how much you have. Every dollar must account to something. This is our country, and the best thing is we can only learn from countries like Ethiopia that develop their dam through their diaspora investment scheme. So we can similarly do the same thing. Or we can develop cooperatives through the Bank of Namibia and have that process going. So there is the an initiative basically to unlock financing, looking at different mechanisms, then rather than going to DBN and other commercial bank, but perhaps community savings can also then partake to develop their own spaces. So, and then obviously now we're also looking at accelerating urban land delivery. I think this basically then boils down, there's always issue that land delivery is very slow. But when you look at the urban and regional, the 2018 Act, it really makes provision for local authority to be able to fast track land delivery. So which any local authority that then have authority becomes an appointing planning authority, you are able to approve your own land application. It doesn't need to go to the Ministry of Urban and Regional Planning. And Swakopmund and Walvis Bay are one of those towns that are basically now in the forefront that is trying to championing this. And we need to really look into the land delivery reports coming from Walvis Bay and Swakopmund as to how effective that will then be. So these are all provision which government have really put in place, even though the process might sound a bit slow, but the act has been there since 2018. So all the local authorities are practically now aligning to fast track this process. And our current system, basically our performance is based on the research. We are 50% below target in terms of approval. But once Walvis Bay, Swakopmund and the city of Windhoek comes to that status, believe me, there will be changes, and this will, if equally so, trickles down onto the market value and into the supply and demand issue. So the initiative is there. The systems they look at, it is very slow, but government has been doing a lot of work, and hence this program is here to really articulate those issues and for the listeners to be aware as to what government is really doing. But maybe just to cut short, Namibia probably need a policy conference, because
another one.
No. The policy conference.
Because I'm asking about the second land conference.
Yeah.
Because it's still the same resource.
Yeah. Now, the policy conference is basically every ministry needs to come and articulate the policies within their structures.
Okay.
So, and inform the public so that everybody knows what is really happening.
Yeah.
And I think for me that is key. Not a land conference. It's basically to say what is the government's agenda on policy, because we have a lot of different policies there. There's an environmental strategic plan that has been put up. There's a lot of things happening, and which are very positive initiatives. But the public needs to be aware for them to be able to participate. And I think that is very critical in terms of development. Now, obviously, in the urban land policy, we're talking about urban land value capture. Urban land value capture is to basically to allow local authorities to be able to assess land based on its value and what it's able to do. Like in the northern areas, you got a lot of mudlands, which you call Oshana.
Yeah.
So those areas, they are good for maybe rice production and all that. And that land use then needs to be utilized for people to then participate in those in that aspect as to and help basically how to control the flood areas with productive use of that. So those are the type of research and investigation which the urban land policy is encouraging local authorities as to how to do land value capture, even that the land looks as if you can't utilize it because it's a flooding area, but perhaps something can be done. Maybe it's fit enough for aquaculture, maybe to deepening the area so we can grow fish in it and many other activity. And then obviously on point number 8, we are looking at enhancing land registration and tenure incremental aspects. So what we're saying here is that the government is doing a very good initiative around the land registration, but the tenure aspect is a problem. Yeah. So people don't have title deeds. Families spat on, squabbles happen in around families regarding that. One of the I always is it the Luxembourg program that is in Rundu and Katima Mulilo. It was funded by GIZ, I think 1996, and only 20% of those people living in those areas under the Luxembourg program got title deeds. So the rest of them don't have. Now, if you then want to...
And that's now in the town limits.
Within the town boundaries.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do a rezoning application in those areas because you do not have ownership, it means ownership is still with the even though you have paid for that portion.
And even though you've lived there for more than 10 years.
It's not even 10 years. We are looking now
at 30, basically 30.
Basically 30 years.
Yeah.
And there's no title deeds at all. So, and Rundu is one of those towns that really need a huge investment in terms of infrastructure, because some of the areas only have running water, some of the areas only have electricity, so the sewer systems. So there's a lot that needs.
There's even an area. Sorry, Francisco. There's an area when I visited back there in 2016 that they can dig just not even a meter, then they hit the water table.
Yes.
Because in some cases it's. It's this branching out, this extension.
Is it Soyema?
It's Soyema. This one that branches out as you come from the western direction.
Western direction.
From, let's say, from the Oshakatis, the Ongwa Divas, in Kurinkuru's direction.
Okay. Okay, that is not Soyema. That is
that first one that you come in. Right after the...
No, it is Soyema. The other one is Ndama.
Yeah, because Ndama is on the other side.
Yes.
And the one guy that lived there literally said it's a situation of some houses are not approved by or some constructions cannot be approved by the town council because it's either that the foundation will be too deep and then the house starts sinking, or if they build a wall for the boundary wall, then it's also a problem because it's not the kind of soil that can actually give that that binding solid feature basically.
Yes, and that is also when you look at, I think it was the minister of Mr. Sankwasa, Honorable Sankwasa, regarding the ground erosion.
He has a superpower. We labeled it here at Eagle FM.
Yeah,
he's Sankwasa nicest,
Yeah. So, and because of this poor storm water planning in Rundu.
Yeah.
So the water streams when it rains, because it's all going towards the river, and that's why the development close to the river, basically sitting on the higher banks, they start to suffer. So the storm water aspects, So now this is all one of the tenure issues, and of which most of the local authorities, they move into title or occupation certificate or title certificate some sort, but a lot still needs to be done in that spaces. And basically now that then perhaps while we are at it, so and in the urban land policy, we then introduce a concept called the blockchain technology. Now, blockchain technology, then basically what we are saying there, that the local authorities, instead of going to the deeds office, the transaction between the local authority and the first landowner, that a title deed needs to be issued, because there is no risk between the local authority and the first landowner. But if that property goes to a second transaction, obviously your conveyances then can come in.
Yeah.
I know this is quite a contentious issue regarding the conveyances and the legal fraternity, but I think we are looking into the low cost really to speed up the process so that these people we can really get cross the line on land ownership. I know the government tried and it was taken to court by the private sector, I think in 2015, but we need to say, guys, at some point government must be allowed to do something for the people. So, and I think this initiative, we now do hope that the government is going to expand on it as to how can we basically implement the blockchain technology so that we can do mass registration. So when we talk about blockchain technology, obviously we are now talking in the aspects of AI to produce those title deeds and obviously connect them to the deeds office, of which the accounting offices now will have that power to give that ownership and yeah. So this is just ideas. Even though once the policy is implemented, obviously there needs to be we need to get the right experts to expand on it so that we understand what is the implementation strategy on it.
Yeah.
So, but once it's a policy, so it means that even the public can come up with idea as to how it can be done, and government will work around the legal aspects to ensure that people have ownership. So to address the land tenure issue. Now, the other aspect on point number 9, we are now talking about the integrated development planning. Now, integrated development planning is that we shouldn't plan in isolation. So what we currently seen in the Namibian development domain, is that you find the town planner does a township establishment, and once it's done and approved, he then gives it over to the engineer. Now, the engineer won't be able to give effective input into the layout because he's already constrained, because he's dealing with an approved township already. So the planning, every township that needs to be planned must have a conceptual input, the engineering report must be attached to it. So we need to make it a must. And then obviously, so the urban design element also equally needs to accompany the township establishment, so that we can also improve the ambience of our developments. Then, because planning, I always tell, when people ask me what is the difference between a town planner and an urban designer, I always take a lady that walks into a salon, and that's a town planner. When she walks out, she's an urban designer, because with all the shades and and
so she's been designed. I'm sorry, ladies.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
No? But she's been designed, and before that there was planning.
Yeah.
So in what you just explained now, Francisco, it's basically the planning takes precedence over design, because
Yes.
design comes afterwards.
Yeah, but it needs to be now integrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need now and to give the distinction. When a lady put on powder and shades, the face looks extremely pleasant, to look at. So now it's the same thing, and
Francisco, you're putting us in hot water here.
and it's the same thing and that is basically what urban design do.
Yeah.
And that's why when you travel to other countries that embrace urban design, and that's the feeling, what the city makes you feel, that is the ambience of urban design. And I just want people to be able to understand, for you to appreciate what urban design is, and that is something that all our towns and city is lacking and city urban.
But before you continue, Francisco, we'll quickly take a short break. We'll come back after it.
Join us for the Ehangano Concert Volume 2 with Ali Tobias. Experience an unforgettable evening featuring songs from her latest album, A Bilo, performed live with a full band. Special guest appearances by Tate Boti, D.A., Page, and One Accord. All proceeds from the event will go towards supporting the Our Lady Orphanage. The event takes place on 4 July 2026 at the National Theatre of Namibia. Tickets are available on Web Tickets Namibia for $450 Namibian. Don't miss this powerful night of music, inspiration, and giving back. Ihangano Concert Volume 2. See you there.
And we come back to listeners from the quick break. And just where we left off before the break, Francisco was just highlighting to us, but primarily what planning and design basically contribute in terms of an urban dimension. Francisco, just taking it from there.
We need now really to rush through the program, and as I said, the program is here to stay. Even though we're rushing through the urban land policy, there's many more episodes. We are here. It's a new program for the radio. Now, looking into sustainable livelihood, obviously this also then intertwine with urban design, integrated planning, basically how communities need to live and to bring more young people in our communities, and this basically then creating a very vibrant communities, having a lot of public spaces. Now, in terms of public spaces, what the urban land policy is trying to do is to define it. So what is it? When you say a public open space, for what is it? Is it for sport? Is it for recreation? Is it for picnics? And is it a water park? It must be properly defined so that it's not an open-ended. And we're seeing that developers take a lot of chances to close off these public open spaces and do housing development. We've seen this happening. I think we need to I think the minister needs to put an end to it. Once it's on public open space, then it will be as such.
So this is now for like, what do they call those things? Because there was a discussion even last year by the city of Windhoek, where it was here around September about primarily public spaces and bringing in more play parks, children's parks, those things because basically if you look at Windhoek's layout, there would be like one play park situation, but it's just like, for better colloquial terms, like a wa. It's just there.
Not properly defined.
Yeah, and it's also so small, so now you need to wonder, is this meant for the public or not?
Yeah. Now sometimes when developers do development and there's a water course running through their property, so they then register the area of the water course. They then register it as a public open space so that they are able to get more land for development, and that is something that needs to be corrected.
So a natural feature, which might be the river, would be then registered as a,
because it's running through your property.
Through the property,
yeah. And this is maybe something, being a valuer myself, that if there's a natural course running through any property, we shouldn't utilize the entire square meterage of that as to say it's the market value because of the size. It must be market value less that
public feature.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to. That is a discussion for another day. But we will definitely need to look into it. Obviously, we are also encouraging smart and compact cities. Yeah, basically smart city, people mostly associate it with technology, but it's more to do with your infrastructure, your transport, movement, walkability, livability. Not very much to do with technology, but just the ease to move, to do business. You live close to work, and that efficiency becomes a very critical aspect. That is more in a nutshell. And obviously, to digitize everything, when you want something from the city, everything is there. You just send and you communicate with ease. The program number 12, the urban design and management, obviously we have touched a bit in an extent over it, so I wouldn't want to, but as I said, you can always come back. The urban land policy is available on our social media. I will post it on Eagle FM for the public to download and to have a look at it. And if you want to post questions, please always feel free. Then you have strategic growth zones. The strategic growth zone, again, you've mentioned the NDP 6 aspect, so the economic zones. So we want also community to apply for their own economic zone within their areas based on their strength of, let me say, like for instance in Rundu, because the wood carving, you do a local economic zone for wood carvers where basically they trade and they got tax brackets when they're operating in that basically a localized EPZ zone per se. Then the one of the critical aspects is the small scale rental. Small scale rental, we all know that there is we are all anticipating the outcome of the rent control bill. So, but what we are saying in the urban land policy, that if you have any open space in your current single residential property, the urban land policy then advocate that you need to build. You can build 3 unit, which a unit with a minimum of 23 square meters for bachelor units, and basically that you are able to build more than 3 units that could give you in excess of 75 square meters without going to do a town planning rezoning application, but you can do it through a consent. Now, Walvis Bay municipalities already have this in place, and they are really working hard to encourage people to build units to address the rental issues. Now, when you do such development, you also then bring in young people into different communities because they would want to rent there and all that, and it also then create that vibrancy. And then we address the high rental issues as well. The blockchain technology, we spoke about it. The gated communities. So what we basically pick up in our research and the complaints that has been registered with the Ministry of Urban is that gated communities, they use levies to pay off their development, which is wrong. It's not supposed to. And obviously, when you buy in a gated community, you then adopt the contract or to be
It's
penalized.
yeah.
And I really don't want to mention the communities on radio, but a lot of people have experienced very, very bad experience. You buy a property, then you are bound into a contract, but then the developer has the ultimate right to make the final decision. So which means that democracy is not been exercised. So it's basically when you go to an AGM, it becomes developer plus one. Whatever the community is proposing.
Even though you own the unit. Yeah.
Yes, and this has been happening. So now what we are saying under the urban land policy, for every development gated community, all the rules and regulation of that gated community must be approved by the ministry. And equally so, all the levies, in terms of how it was spent, those financial reports needs to be submitted to the ministry so that we are able to assess that the people's money is not being abused, so that it's being used to be basically to fund the required infrastructure for their area. Then obviously on point number 17, we're looking at participatory involvement in terms of settlement upgrading. People must have their rights to dictate as to how the settlement should go, not purely be imposed by professionals and the local councillors as to what is best suitable for them. And then on the last one, the agri-village development. So what we are saying here is that there's too many towns that are popping up. Yeah, there's too many towns that are popping up, and we need to avoid a lot of towns because it becomes a financial burden to the government. Because for every town, new councillor, new political system, and all that, and the Ministry of Urban is continuously just growing, and this could become troublesome. So what we then saying, and the example I always try to make use of, you look into a situation like on Dangwa and on Nipa, that was not supposed to happen. I mean, it's really.
I don't want to chime in there with a joke, Francisco, because I also looked at Onipa last and I was like, are they trying to be a town separate from Ondangwa, or are they a neighborhood of I'm sorry, Onipa, if you live in Onipa.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Then on the other side, you on the other side of Oshakati, you have Oshikuku. On the other side of Ondangwa and Helau Nafidi, you now have Onga that also became a settlement.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful with that. Now there is the aspects of Oshirambo also wants to become a settlement. So we need to be careful of those issues, what is really happening. So in this, what we then say that from the urban center, from the core center of any local authority within a 50-kilometer radius, so you can basically create an urban node. Anything that is behaving like an urban node. Now, what we're trying to say...
Like Vantu, basically.
No. So when you are in the north in rural areas, you find an area, there's a hospital, there's a school,
there's a police
there's
station.
a police station,
A magistrate's court.
No, there's no magistrate court, but it's something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something that is behaving like an urban
Node, yeah.
So, and people congregate there to get services. So that specific area, you then make it an
The urban area.
an urban node, and you then integrate it to the closest local authorities within a 50-kilometer radius. So then you avoid things that are just popping up, meaning it becomes an island of that particular local authority. So in that way, those people are getting now proper services. The NEMPOs can come there and all that because it's an organized node, but it serves the rural community. So that is the kind of conversation that we need to look into, and that is a space that we really need to move to. Now, one of the key aspects what the urban land policy is also addressing, it's basically take its precedent case study from the Vloskasbagen settlement between Swakopmund and Henties Bay.
Yeah.
That community took government to court and they won the case for private ownership.
Yeah.
So previously into the regional act doesn't make provision for private land ownership into a town, into settlements.
Yeah, into an urban
so
settlement.
it's only on leasehold.
Yeah.
So that community fought back, and then they got the right to purchase the land, of which a valuation roll was done and purchases took place, and now they are paying rate and taxes formally because of that precedent study that is there. So anyone, you could use that argument because it's a supreme judgment. You could use that argument to say that I want to buy my land in a settlement, but obviously you need to go through the processes for you to be able to do that. You get your own valuer so that you things are done accordingly. But now the urban land policy and the regional act that is being proposed makes provision for that. That is going now to create a lot of ownership in a lot of areas. Now, in a case like, for instance, ULWAZI, just recently it got integrated as a town, but it was degraded to a settlement. So there was a lot of confusion. Now it was a settlement with private ownership. So basically it now went back because of the mining activity that is happening. So basically the urban land policy was also trying to redress the land ownership and also to steer development in that space. Meaning that, but now the most beautiful aspects of it, of which from the government's initiative, is if you do not have the money, you don't have to buy now. You can still operate on your leasehold agreement. And that's a beautiful thing. So until such then, or your kids, once they have the funds, then they are able to buy the property in the settlement to private ownership. And that is really one of the aspects which government is really addressing. So yeah, it's a lot of information that I really shared in a very, very short span, but I do hope, please go listen to it. Send us your WhatsApp on your questions on our WhatsApp line. We will definitely respond to you, or on our social media pages. Please, we were more than welcome to have this conversation going. But what we're really trying to say is that we're not here to promote the interest of government, but we just want to share what is out there and what government is doing for the listeners to be able to appreciate what work is being done in the development space.
100%. And just on that particular note, Francisco, like you said, we did compact. We did compress it into this 1 hour. It does bring us up to the end, dear listeners, for this afternoon's particular program of ULWAZI, which, if you did not know by now, which is 2 weeks later, it is knowledge, or to know in Zulu. Just to let you know again. So, you now know. There is a lot more, because definitely Francisco has a lot more to share. But just from your side, Francisco, any last particular thoughts?
Yeah, maybe just to introduce our next town through my manager here, MD. We are going to unpack. We said now this time we are moving to the south. We are going to unpack Keetmanshoop on Saturday. I think the listeners from the south, please don't be left behind. Tune in. Listen to your data and your performance. We are going to give you a 10-year horizon perspective and unpack developments within the Keetmanshoop townlands.
100%. And on that note, dear listeners, we'll be back. We're quickly stepping into a short break, and we'll be back after the break, coming back with the home run here on your Monday session. On that note, this has been ULWAZI. Thank you once again, Francisco, for coming in and for sharing all that information. My brain feels like it got now another software update. But just let us know. Just let the listeners know again. Saturday, it's the Keetmanshoop.
Yeah,
discussion.
Saturday is Keetmanshoop from 10 o'clock up to 11. Please tune in, ask your questions, and not specifically just for Keetmans. If you have other land-related issues, we are basically here to assist you. On that note.
100%. On that note, dear listeners, we'll come back right after this short break.
lipuranengeno wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondo tutoingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna emitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado nawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamo ili nawa ningepata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe bali heali nola natu heali bali no heali ile ko berewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081-270-3727 or the office number 083-288-400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal.
Scandal.
Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura menace.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Tune in to The Home Run with Helmut and Dwight on your number one talk radio station Eagle FM and be part of an in-depth discussion on events you didn't know you needed to hear until you do. From Namibia, Africa and around the world. Tune in from Monday to Friday from 4:30 to 6 p.m. only on Eagle FM. You are now listening to The Home Run with Helmut and Dwight, weekdays from 4:30 to 6, only on Eagle FM. Download the app or tune in to a frequency near you.
Finally, it's home run time, and welcome. And now that yours truly, Dwight, have already basically started with He didn't actually start. That was a whole different program, and you are just okay. I thought we okay. I'm just really hoping we made it clear, which I think we did. That every Monday and Friday there will be a little bit of changes in our home run program. Usually we have a 2-hour program starting from 4 to 6 here on Eagle FM. That's home run. Except for Monday and Friday, we'll be having a little bit of collabo, or more like just a portion of the time for a home run every Monday and Friday will be allocated to 2 different programs. And today's Monday, so they just prepare for Friday. Otherwise, from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is just a home run as usual. So today's discussion is based on, again, we are back to the International Energy Agency discussion where they were, let's go back to 2021, basically. That will be the excellent way to start today's home run discussion. Back in 2021, I believe the International Energy Agency was tired of seeing politicians come together to talk and then take pictures with smiley faces. Just smiley faces like, kids in a Jet magazine, and then they disperse.
And then have buffet, Helmut, you forgot the buffet.
Oh yeah, they're all you can eat.
Yeah.
You think they have all you can drink?
Helmut, have you ever been at these international events? The food is on tap, bruh. That's why that meme exists. What's that meme? What's the meme's name?
You don't say.
About the researchers at international research conferences. They say we don't like webinars. This is why we come. This is why we like flying to other places to have the buffet.
So it's not that we don't appreciate technology, but you don't understand. There's something that makes being physically there different.
A lot more enticing.
And by that you mean you don't have an open buffet at on a webinar because you're attending the whole thing online.
Yeah, there is no open buffet on a webinar.
Well, you're gonna have your own in your kitchen, or unless you tell me.
If you're at the office, your office kitchen has just got water for you, and then what?
Well, then enjoy your webinar. But anyway, back in 2021, there's COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland. Yeah. The International Energy Agency basically was tired of seeing all these politicians coming together to talk about, energy transition, and they come up with plan after plan after plan after plan, because according to their report on this, according to the report that's going to make that's going to be the main source of our, the main source of reference today. They looked at about 120 plans that have been made so far with regards to energy transition that they just looked at, back in 2021 they decided to come up with a whole new way of looking at this whole energy transition. Now, this again brings me back to the difference between politicians and scientists. Yeah. Most politicians, every time they meet, they just want to talk and talk and talk and talk and do more talking. But the International Energy Agency guys, this is mostly guys that are in the science field. They want implementation, not just the fancy vocabularies. So they decided to basically come up with a whole group of countries that would like to participate into implementing, not just having just general discourse on the energy transition. So they looked at a number of major emitting factors, and boy, it was kind of difficult to read that report without listening to Dwight going, at the back of my head going, see, cement is a major polluter, because cement is also referenced in the report. That is one of those major polluters that they basically looked at. And in terms of,
I'm glad they're looking at cement. Do you know what's currently now the biggest potential contributor to pollution, like in 2026 right now?
Yeah.
That heat wave that the Europeans are experiencing.
Oh yeah.
If they all go and buy air conditioning like right now, because air conditioning is listed as being one of the particular, even by the IEA itself, air conditioning. Yeah, because they use chlorophyll carbon. That gas.
I thought
that gas.
I thought those things were banned like a long time ago.
It was banned from us using it under our armpits.
Wait, there was a time it was used. Okay, boy.
And for using it in our toilets.
Hang on a second. They allowed the chemical that was putting a giant hole on the ozone layer for people to use them, the same chemical in their armpits?
Yeah, it was used for your deodorant, and it was used for your toilet spray, or your, as they call it, your air freshener. We call it just toilet spray, because we all know you don't use air freshener anywhere else in the house except for the one part of the house that actually has a foul smell.
Yeah.
After usage. We all know.
Okay, this practicing for Friday is killing me. But look, the thing is, yeah. Now, okay. So there was a Jesus, my God, that was. I remember I'm not sure if that was in agriculture or geography in high school, where we talked about some of the chemicals that were used in, that were now banned because of environmental concerns. CFC was one of them, and DDT, especially in fertilizer.
The other one was asbestos.
Yeah, asbestos. Now,
construction.
asbestos is very brutal when it comes to, it's terrible for your lungs.
Yeah, and you don't even know you're inhaling the thing if you live in a building.
Yeah.
That has asbestos as part of the construction materials.
Yeah.
But that was more on a personal health, not on an environmental health perspective.
Yeah.
It's only later on that they realized the personal health also transcends into environmental health. For example, if the thing gets demolished, the structure, and the rubble gets, gets dumped somewhere else, that the asbestos can leak into water tables.
Yeah.
And into river systems and into, fresh water. The United States has a lot of those cases. Don't worry.
One thing I find interesting about chemicals that have been banned, now that we are just talking about it, before come back to this energy, energy transition, from the implementation side of things. There's a chemical that was used, I think, in the 1950s or 60s, Desetel. It was used to in movie theaters to make popcorns, and then they found out that it's actually terrible for your lungs. Because it tended, they found that a lot of people that worked, that made these popcorns for these movie theaters, they ended up developing, what they called popcorn lung disease, because they had a condition for where their lungs under not a microscope, when they were scanned, whether with a CT scan or an X-ray, but they. The shape of the lungs, basically, like the surface of the lungs showed some patterns that resembles popcorns. Now, the interesting thing is they found out that
people were eating the popcorn.
It wasn't much about the people that were eating the popcorns that led to the chemical being banned. It was the people that were under constant exposure of working with these chemicals to make these popcorns. Because if I go for a movie, for example, I'm getting this. I'm just there maybe for an hour or two, depending on the length of the movie, and I'm eating this.
So the level of exposure.
The level of exposure, I don't think is long enough.
Yeah.
So I think that is why the consumers of the product were not much of a problem, or it didn't have much of an effect on them. But those ones that were under constant exposure, because they had to be there maybe the whole day, or maybe that we were working 5 days a week, so they ended up developing this problem. So now the chemical gets banned because of that. After they found out that this is the chemical that was causing all this problem, they stopped using it in movie theaters, and it has resurfaced again. Guess where it's found? Some vapes.
And the literal thing with some vapes is the people smoke more than what they actually smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
They literally smoke more, Helmut. Now, it's the same thing. Remember the report that we looked at from the standing committee about the...
when they were considering whether or not to...
The Hubblies.
Yeah.
The Hubblies and vapes.
Yeah.
But it was mostly focusing on Hubblies. Yeah. Remember that report where they highlighted primarily how it changes the behavior of the teenagers, and primarily that most of these teenagers either smoke it because they've developed an addiction for the feeling and for the thing. Some cases it's literally on a level of being a health hazard to their own personal health because they don't eat, remember?
Yeah.
Some cases, or some of them come out of what could be called troubling or trouble homes or houses.
So it's a
coping
mechanism.
Yeah, a coping mechanism that they need to try and sort of like deal with some issues that they might be that they might be suffering from. And this particular discussion itself is one also specifically of how some of these chemicals obviously get repurposed.
That's a barbaric way of repurposing something.
But it is repurposing.
Yeah, it is repurposing.
It is repurposing. And it's obviously
capitalism wins again.
And it's to put it bluntly, just on capitalism, because you can get people who are what's that word? They have a benevolence to them. They can do something for the well-being of of a community or the greater community.
Yeah.
Well, obviously not to be on the level of the tobacco industry back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. That first court case, the woman that took Marlboro to court for her husband's lungs.
Yeah.
The Marlboro. You remember the Marlboro man? The advert, the model.
Yeah. At first, okay. A lot of people started coming out in the 1950s. It wasn't until the 1950s and actually mid to late 1950s when scientists started linking cigarette smoking to to lung issues like cancer, like lung cancer, and that's when and as you can imagine, like any giant money making machine, the tobacco industry really ganged up on these guys, which is why they did not see the inside of the courtroom until 1994.
It went all the way until then.
Yeah. So I think this is now the reason why that that's an excellent point to start is to start from is that if you look at this report, if you look at the International Energy Agency report, one thing that they are looking at is we want to shift from from just talking about energy transition and environmental protection, the implementation of environmental initiatives. We want to shift from just talking about it to exercising it.
Yeah.
Except the first thing that the main foundation that's missing in this equation is that there is lack of national leadership involvement, and that lack of national leadership involvement means lack of policy. And when there are no policy, because this national leadership, these are the policy makers. When the policy makers are missing in the equation of mass rollout of pretty much anything, you have a giant problem, because you have no means of enforcing the said initiatives. Now, what that brings you is to the 2024-2025 Plastics Treaty. Now, 2024, they met in South Korea. They could not reach an agreement. So it was supposed to postpone to 2025. I believe in 2025 took place in Switzerland. No agreement, because the issue is the reason why it was postponed in South Korea is the reason why it was postponed back in in 2025 in Switzerland, because now they couldn't have a unanimous consensus on how to deal with the plastics pollution on a global level, and we have garbage patches basically spread across the world's oceans, and these are having a lot of ecological problems.
Yeah.
Now, including the microplastics, which are terrible for not just for marine life, but for human beings that consume this marine life, aka your fish, which is why one of the biggest marketing hype, I believe, in the deep sea culinary food establishments is that they like to describe their fish as deep sea caught, and that's supposed to be somehow a reference to it's from deep sea, away from all the pollutions that you have to worry about that are seeping in your in the ocean's food chain or food web. Now, the main reason now they could not reach a unanimous consensus about how to come up with an enforceable or more like internationally applicable plastics treaty on how to deal with plastic pollution was you had two main camps. Basically, you have a lot of environmental activists, for the most part, that were calling for the limit into the manufacturing of these products.
Yeah.
It's either limit or just straight out to stop the whole thing. But you have, oil producing countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia, your UAE, your Kuwait, Iran, and Iran, Iraq, or, just that region. Now, the thing is, these guys were calling for the more like a management, more like figure out a way to deal with it instead of just putting a cap on it.
Yeah.
And that's totally understandable, because you have to understand that their main source of revenue is coming from the from the exact same thing that you'd like to stop. This is somewhat the same thing that you see if you look at the early days of the founding of the International Criminal Court. The US did not want to participate in the implementation of the International Criminal Court because they knew that part of its mandate will be investigating exactly what they've been doing since pretty much the Second World War. So in the very same way
Which is
that
themselves.
yeah, exactly. Which is why they would be shooting themselves in the foot. Which is why to this day they are not signatory to the Rome Statutes.
Yeah, but the argument is literally, no, we've got internal systems of dealing with whatever our people are doing out there.
Any country can say that.
But here's the thing: if you've got an actual dispute, like now in the football, like in the World Cup, where the dispute literally is impacting the Iranian footballers.
Those guys have been mistreated like no man's business.
Yeah, I don't know if is Iran still playing in this World Cup. Just want to make
There's
sure.
one question that
No,
Trevor
they're
Noah
not.
asked with regards to the Iranian team, and I totally agree. Even when they are facing the media to be asked about the performance of their match, you have this freaking journalist who is going, "What are your thoughts on the Strait of Hormuz?" Are you kidding me?
Well, there was a good response I watched the other day about a sheriff in the US for one county. Now, the sheriff, how do the American law enforcement works is that you've got a county sheriff, which is like your local authority, let's say your Windhoek sheriff, and then you've got a regional, meaning a state police entity. And then what the situation was they were there for a press briefing about capturing or catching a bunch of suspects related to a crime in the town. Then this one journalist gets up and asks a question about, can the Attorney General please explain about, this woman, there's another woman that was captured in another town somewhere else, also in the same state, about her unlawful arrest, and any thoughts on that. The sheriff talking here about this press conference was like, you just went and me off. We're talking about this. We're not talking about that. If you want to have a conversation with this guy, go outside and go ask him there. Don't ask at my press conference about that.
Like, we have a specific topic here.
Yeah,
so you're just
a specific crime for a specific community dealing with a specific pain.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, the reason why I brought up the whole plastic treaties is because of again, we are back to unanimous consensus. One thing that came in my head once reading that report, I could think that it's not just Africa that has a problem reaching a unanimous consensus on subjects.
So, Helmut, there was another conversation just before earlier the day, before we now stepped into the studio, that I had to sit through. Well, I actually joined a little bit late. Because I also had to do a little bit of reading in preparation for the show and for the earlier discussion just before we started with the home run. So it's this webinar about women and youth, AFCFTA, finding guidelines and pathways. But the first thing that, as I was listening to one of the presenters there, because I joined a little bit late, was the discussion about cross-border payments. And a discussion popped up. The one presenter was asking, under the AFCFTA, there's a protocol there that your government has to comply with sharing data from Namibia, let's say with a business that is serving Namibians digitally, let's say from Nigeria. But Namibia doesn't have a data protection law. Namibia doesn't have a cybersecurity law. Namibia only has an electronic banking, has only an Electronic Transactions Act, which is that only law. The concerns out of this was immediately, so your government first has to say yes to something where they don't have something locally in place.
To regulate it.
Now I also get to understand as to why our government only ratified, or why all the governments to the AFCFTA platform only ratified. They said yes in principle because they realize nuanced application is based upon what you've got present in your country. Now, another scenario that also popped up was this digital ID discussion. Do you know what is one of the downsides of digital IDs, Helmut?
Apart from unintended consequences of what we are seeing happening to the international criminal court officials?
Yes, exactly that. If you, as a Namibian, let's say you're an activist, let's say you're another political party leader, you know, we say
political dissident. Oh boy,
let's immediately take the first victims of of the actions that would stem from a digital ID discussion.
Yeah.
Is literally what is literally the moment you have a dissenting voice opposing to one political party who might be the leadership party for that particular scenario in your country, is that your banking can be switched off with just the press of a button.
Yeah.
No law, no discussion. There would be no way for you to even find recourse. It's based upon a mood or a vibes situation. You know, I feel like it. I'll switch off. I'll switch off Dwight's financing. Dwight can't transact. Dwight can't pay for water and lights. Dwight can't do anything. It's literally a mechanism to create hardship. A digital ID.
Look, that's somewhat the same thing that happened during the NSAS protest in Nigeria. The UN criticized the Nigerian government for basically cutting off the financial, banking facilities of the people that they suspected or maybe sometimes even knew for sure were participating in the protest. And now
those are very, I will go for a very good colorful word. Those are fascist tactics. That's literally what authoritarianism does.
No, look, the thing is, I think when we came up with this technology, we knew this was going to happen. But the thing is, even after coming to that realization that, we have always had dictators. And centralized information that's easy to access thanks to advancement in technology is just going to make dictatorship even easier and even more dangerous.
Yeah.
So, look, I totally understand the convenience that come with technological advancement, especially when it comes to the centralization of information for easy service provision. But you have to understand again that in the event of someone, of having a deranged individual in your executive office, what is your plan B? How do you get out of that? Because once they find themselves in executive office and they have access to all these tools where they can reach anyone, anywhere, good luck stopping them.
Yeah.
Picture this. 1930s. Look at the chaos that look at the chaos that Hitler caused in the 1930s. That was without the technology that we have today in terms of information gathering. But even then, you have a lot of Jews that were caught in a crossfire in places like the Netherlands. One British comedian points out that you have to understand that there are a lot of unintended consequences that comes with this. We're not saying you have to stop the rollout, but if you have to present the rollout in a very convincing way that in the event of this thing going south, you have a plan in mind. Because the example that he gives is that the reason why you have a lot of Jews that were killed in the Netherlands is because the Dutch had an impeccable record keeping. So they knew where to find who, when, where they worked, what they lived, and you know what's the most painful thing? Francesca Albanese, the special UN rapporteur, she's an Italian. She's one of those people that cannot, whose financial access, access to financial services have basically been ruined by the US and Israel. And now, her husband works for the World Bank. He was demoted because of the wife's political point of view. Now, not only is that against international law, it's just flat out dictatorship. Now, this is what we are witnessing on the early days of using technology, but we are still pushing it to all aspects of our lives. This is not going to end well.
No, nothing is going to end well, Hamud, unless there is an element of some moral compass dictating something somewhere. Because okay, let's highlight a discussion of moral compasses now.
Yeah.
Do you know what was the worst out of the 1930s discussion that happened there in Europe?
Yeah.
Remember the Spanish Civil War?
Yeah.
When Hitler, the failed Austrian painter, and his Italian bro, Mussolini, when they came to power, they were testing weapons in the Spanish Civil War. They gave weapons and air force support to Franco. Franco was a dictator. Now, back then, Helmut, if you thought about the discussion around why are people so hostile against the idea of communism?
Yeah.
Back then, it was literally on a scenario of whoever was in power, the political elites, deeming communism as a threat to everyday life without any proof, any research, any counter argument, any allowance for posing a counter argument.
Basically, freedom of speech is out through the window.
As immediately through the window, and a scenario of a, what they call that, emergency state is proclaimed. Now, when we look at the scenarios, yes, communists have produced authoritarian regimes.
Yeah.
But socialists have also produced communist, authoritarian regimes. Yeah. The best, obviously, being the two guys that I mentioned who helped Franco. Franco also being a military guy himself. But when you come to Africa, you've also found the same. You still find one particular scenario specifically under the guise of averting something. We have a hop, skip, and a jump that the military guys usually are the ones that do regime change discussions on Africa. Now, in the broader sense of discussion, when we obviously look at this talking point of this breakthrough report that these guys are trying to highlight, is that you're always trying to find is there an actual policy or the direction or discussion that helps to change lives? Is there something that tries to bring in industrial development? Not always.
Alternatives?
Not always either. Because let's, for example, look at some of the main things, Helmut. For example, that you would have thought on the moral compass discussion, the United States would be leading something, but, things are just getting more evil and evil by the day when it comes up about Trump. And I'm using the word evil as the truest projection from my eyes of what I see. So, have you heard of this dialogue engagement by Peter Thiel?
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard that it sounds very similar to the Epstein Island fiascos?
How to navigate World War III.
How to start a cult.
How is your sex life?
And all of this is by invitation only. And guess who they invite? A whole bunch of political leaders and NATO's high command.
My favorite part is the guy chairing the whole event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him specifically. Remember when he was asked last year, does he think humanity must prevail through disasters?
Okay.
For some reason, this guy just hates humans.
Look, I think look, when was it that Lord Acton who said power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely, and every time that I think of that phrase, and every time that I look at tech billionaires, whether it's Peter Thiel or his partner, who is this Alex Kapp. The 28 part, is it the 12 to 28 part manifesto that was posted on the Palantir, X page a few weeks ago that everyone went haywire with. You think that's bad? That's from a book that was written by Alex. Believe me, a book is worse. Now, the book is 100 times worse than the 28 part manifesto.
Did you read the book?
Oh yeah. And here's the thing. What you can see here is that this is someone who is either nuts or someone who is absolutely drunk on power. And they have a lot of it. And here is the most painful part. Peter Thiel is one of those people that basically signed check after check to bankroll Donald Trump's campaign. So now you know why the negotiations going on in Iran is very difficult to rely on especially coming from Trump himself.
Yeah.
Because my point of view on politicians have always been their campaign contributors makes decisions, not them. And now, if my assumptions are right, and people like Peter Thiel, the head of Palantir, who is now, and by the way, Palantir is dominating the tech world in terms of mostly surveillance material.
Yeah,
and
the Europeans are now realizing that they've got to kick. They've basically been. I think 5 economies have now cancelled Palantir contracts.
Yeah, look. Here's the thing. I like Palantir technology. The technological breakthrough they are doing is impeccable. Is second to none. Now the thing is, once you start thinking of it from the perspective of the mentality of the guy in charge, then that's when you begin to realize this is not good.
This is the wrong guy.
And that's why, one of the major question coming out of, especially among, pro-anti-Israel Palestine discussion that you'll find a lot is all this technology that Palantir is rolling out on a crazy scale. Where are they testing it from? Now, going back to your dialogue discussion, a guy who runs a Christian organization will be chairing that event where they are talking about how's your sex life, how to navigate World War III. And
we're not making this up, guys. This is true.
Look, man,
this is true. We're not making this up.
Look, man, the most painful thing is, again, it keeps taking me back to Antonio Guterres' beginning of the year speech for his beginning of the year press conference, or where prospects of the United Nations. One thing that he pointed out is that we are witnessing a shift in governance power, not from public representatives or governments to the people, but from public representatives, aka governments, to tech billionaires. And he was right.
Yeah. No, but it's happening more. The more obvious shift is happening in the US.
Yeah.
Because the best example right now is basically Europe correcting action. You've always had Russia, because Putin decided, you know what, if you're a billionaire in this economy, you have to play by the government's rules, which is technically his rules.
Yeah.
And then China's doing the same to their billionaires. You are not meddling in political power, but everyone has to ask what happened to Jack Ma.
I think you know why. Look, the thing is, after the fall of the Soviet Union, I totally, I think Putin looked at just how many small families or guys basically just took industries and then decided to make them their own and became billionaires overnight.
No, but there was something else happening with Russia in the 90s, Ahmad.
Something worse.
Remember that Russia had literally a civil war in Chechnya?
Yeah, they did.
Chechnya wanted to break away.
Yeah.
Now, who was busy helping the Chechen rebels break away?
Of course.
Now, obviously, if you're a national leader of your country and you've got sovereign borders, to look after, and you continuously hear that there's this separatist movement discussions being championed or channeled or being communicated within the corridors or in the national streets discussion, it obviously puts to a threat the aspect. Because I'm highlighting back, remember the Tucker Carlson interview that he gave, where for 2 hours he was giving Tucker Carlson a 500-year lowdown on Russian history before the Bolshevik Revolution, which happened during the First World War.
Yeah.
And everyone said, Putin he's being boring. But I saw what the man was doing, because he was educating basically Tucker Carlson's American audience through Carlson.
So to understand today, you have to look at the history.
Well, it's also one of the reasons why you also have to try and understand the Russophobia, the anti-Russian sentiment that exists. Helmut, I've tried understanding this anti-Russian sentiment. I was like, what are the Europeans doing? I mean, they border onto the country. Would having the best relations of someone right next to you not be the best pathway? Really?
Okay. I did a segment on my Mind the Gap show where I, admired rich people and how smart they are and how dumb broke people are, and
I'm avoiding a video that says why intelligent people are the, what do they call it? Is it the most useless? It's a video there on YouTube, and I was like, I don't want to insult myself by looking at that video.
Look, the thing is, the reason why I pointed that out was my main source of reference is one of my favorite book from this Israeli historian. I keep forgetting that.
Not Frankenstein.
Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh.
Yeah. Now,
isn't he the guy that has just been defending that is basically defending his position as the only Israeli besides Frankenstein?
Yeah. He's also not a huge fan of the Netanyahu government. And their whole, just pro-war everything.
Yeah.
When all you have is a hammer, you think everything is a nail. Now, the thing is, now in his book Homo Deus, one thing that he writes is that using I think Imperial Russian example, it was that the thing is, a lot of people, especially the high class, they're always coordinated. Every time that their interests are threatened, they come together to protect that interest.
Yeah.
And one of the things he pointed out, which I totally agree with, is that every time the upper class come together to protect their interest, they dedicate a lot of resources into making sure that the people on the ground, the people that I describe as the people that cannot afford polony, they make sure that that's you enemy. They make sure that we are as divided as possible. We are divided on race, religion, tribe, sexual orientation, you name it. They make
which was developed by guess who?
Oh boy,
homeboy that died in a prison cell supposedly.
Look, the reason why
and dialogues, discussion.
The reason
apparently they're also mentioning it there.
You see, that is exactly why I agree with Yuval Noah Harari. And one of the reasons why I agree with him is when the science started coming out in the 1950s that cigarette smoking was causing lung cancer. You have to understand, at this time, the tobacco company, there was no big tobacco. They were very fragmented and they were competing with each other.
And then
but when their interests were threatened, they ganged up together. It took from 1950s.
And formed a lobby. Remember that lobby?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They formed a lobby that influenced policies all the way down to the consumer. And what then begins to happen is that they become so powerful, they would not see the inside of a courtroom until 1994. From 1950s. So now again, you see an example that that is similar to what Yuval Noah Harari is describing here. That the problem with people on the ground is that they don't know how to put their differences aside. We are always fighting over, you are taller than me, you are whiter than me, you are blacker than me, you are fatter than me.
You live in the other side of town.
Yeah,
I don't
live
live
on
there.
the other side of town. And I'm using I'm using an Android. You're using an iPhone. It's, dumb things like that, and that works a lot in favor of the upper class.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that level of stupidity is not ending anytime soon.
No, it won't. There's another particular thing that also plays a major discussion into this particular realm, because when we've obviously been looking at this breakthrough study that we started off, basically, yes, we took you all the way to Chwaneng, somewhere in Botswana. Sorry guys, we're outside of the limits basically of Namibia, but much of it obviously has to do with the the IEA basically speaks here about a lot of coordination between countries.
Yeah.
Countries being able to work together and meet certain particular goals. Countries obviously also coordinating their own particular discussions in terms of identifying what they want to do for themselves. We obviously have the Lupita Corridor, which is a good example of that.
Yeah.
Then there's also that, what is that? The Orange River Senku water development. That one that became a argument at the start of the year that no one could identify who from Namibia said Namibia doesn't technically agree with the thing after the project had been already in existence for 20 years. Talk about lack of communication. But yeah.
Breakdown.
I mean, it's weird, Helmut. It's literally weird.
Yeah.
So when we obviously look at this, at governments in a regional sense, basically working together, there's obviously also the SADC power pool, where some of the goals is to integrate Angola, because Angola is literally a disconnected power production hub.
Yeah.
They sit with excess electricity. But one of the things that have become a key discussion and they mentioned in the executive summary of the report, Helmut, where they say literally that because of the climate action plans or the climate plans, governments basically decided more to focus on their own goals, the goals being, where's this one? Energy security, affordability, and job creation. Now, just 2 weeks ago, we already had the discussion primarily about remember the ratio of 29-1?
Yeah, in terms of
what our VTCs,
the manpower that's required.
Yeah, the VTCs, what the VTCs are producing, or the vocational schools and training centers are producing, they're producing 1,300 something versus the 29,700 something we need jobs. But the ratio basically speaks to 28 jobs that'll be vacant because there's only 1,000. There's only one guy who's available basically to access or basically to fit all jobs.
Yeah.
Now, when we obviously look at these particular scenarios, it speaks in one scenario as a major positive for Namibia because there's always something you can build up to. The other particular side, which is the major negative, has been now work has to stand still or a whole bunch of foreigners have to be imported, which could potentially lead to a March and March and to an Operation Tutula in Namibia.
Yeah, and the date is closing fast.
Which is basically tomorrow.
Yeah.
The downside is literally you are sitting with a major problem. The major problem being, how do you force Namibians who technically have grade 12, I say technically, because from the discussion of the demystification of the AS levels, remember what the lady said, the doctor. She almost, at one stage she almost, was it her? No, it was her cousin. Her cousin was the one that referred her to me for that interview. The cousin technically said she almost encouraged or discouraged her own daughter from taking the AS levels this year. And I said there, how can a parent discourage a kid just because the parent doesn't understand the thing? But I thought to myself, I didn't ask the person who referred, that particular. Because it's weird, Hamud. Have you ever heard of something like that? Just because you, the parent, don't understand it, now you wish to discourage your child, but you know that this is technically a year that your child would lose out on. But you technically...
It's a good foundation for someone who is planning, if you're planning on going to tertiary, and I don't know anyone in high school who is not planning on going to tertiary.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Remember now that the universities in Namibia have to bring in a bridging course. Yeah. Just because there was a whole bunch of students or learners or young Namibians that were told, who literally went like, you know what, I don't understand why I need the extra year. I can exit in my 11th year. But now you exit in your 11th year, you don't have the necessary points basically to get into year one, first year of university. Now, for you to get there, now the university has to spend money on tutors and classrooms just to get you up to scratch.
Sort of like to catch you up.
From what you missed because you made a conscientious decision in your year 11 on high school of saying, you know what, I don't like school anymore. Sharp Owens, see you guys. Sharp sniper. And then we sit with guys who just did not understand. The other explanation was apparently at that time that there wasn't enough, when the program rolled out in 2021, there wasn't enough AS levels or teachers that were skilled up to give A levels in their schools.
Yeah.
That was obviously the first level of sacrificial lambs that occurred.
One of the reasons why I believe the International Energy Agency is right on one thing is, and that is everything that this COP discussions, the Conference of Parties, the voices that we more often listen to are coming from nations' representatives, and most of these guys are not privy to the science of half the stuff they're talking about. So that means they need experts in their countries, which more often, if you look at countries like Namibia, it's either they're in the private sector, and these experts, if they're in the public if they're in the public sector, then they're in managerial positions.
Yeah.
So we take someone who is supposed to be doing research and to be running research and development programs, and then put them in a position where they are basically managing in which puts a wide gap between what they are able of doing, aka what they studied for, versus what they are doing. And believe me, I can study and become an expert at anything, but if you put me in a position that is even much easier to handle and comes with a good check, please sign me up. Yeah. So now what the International Energy Agency points out is, first of all, enough talking. Let's get to acting. And part of acting is that if we want to act well, we have to know what legal operational parameters we're working in, so we don't end up in court every day with because we don't agree on what to implement and what not to. And when you're looking at it from a policy or legal standpoint, when it comes to when you're looking at things from a policy making standpoint, it becomes very important, not only because you need the laws to set up something. It's because when you're implementing that particular thing, and there are disputes within that implementation, you need the legal channels to basically handle those disputes. Which is kind of difficult, and I totally get it. It's difficult now to handle if the institution itself is running on regulations that is not well thought out or altogether absent. So
or might not be laws.
Or might not be. Now, look at it this way. The more I read the South African Constitution, the more I fall in love with that document. Now, the thing is, the South African Constitution is, how do I put this? The Namibian Constitution and a lot of other, legislations, especially acts of parliament, they are not very different. But one thing about the South African ones is that they are detailed, which makes even like
the thing we did last year.
Very detailed.
The thing about land disposition. That act. Remember that law?
The one that
was it the law act?
People were running around saying South Africa is taking over land.
And then we realized. But the thing says it right there. There's no ambiguity.
Like, it's not there. Like, look, the easiest example I often like to give people to to compare is that the South African Constitution, the Namibian Constitution. Just look at the proper administration of justice, and that is Article 18 of the Namibian Constitution and Section 33 of the South African Constitution. When you compare these two. Now, you will find that the Section 33 of the South African Constitution is basically, Article 18 of the Namibian Constitution is basically a summarized version of Section 33 of the South African Constitution.
What?
Just compare those two. You're gonna laugh your lungs out. It's it's a summarized.
But the one came before the other one.
That's the thing, but. I think it's, I think the South African just looked at Section 18 and were like, we're going to need more than this. Because theirs is 1996 most. So they decided to basically widen it up to remove all the ambiguities that clearly is in ours. Now, the thing is, it's not that...
Ours does leave a lot of room for ambiguity.
It does, but the good thing is the ambiguities that you could find in Section 18 are basically spread across different acts of parliament, like your Labour Act and your Trust Banking Institution, all those things. It's basically scattered all the way through. But the South Africans like, you know what, we don't have time for this. So you just lump everything in one here and we're good to go.
But that's the issue that I also have with the Namibia Hamud, because why couldn't we do that from the get-go?
Look,
now we have to, it's like someone walking in the dark. And they are feeling, where's the wall? Where's the chair? Am I going the right direction? That's how Namibia was basically. Literally. Because what the South Africans basically do is, Make it, define it, be specific.
Make it as clear as possible.
No room for misinterpretation of anything.
Yeah.
Get to the point, stick to that point. Make sure the point is literally generational, meaning it carries over.
Yeah.
I mean, how much?
Look, let me give you one, one more painful example. When it comes to to delegating authority, the South African Constitution is is very clear on a public organ or a public actor, aka your public official, they can delegate their power. It's in the Constitution, and then you come to the Namibian Constitution. It's not in the Constitution, man. It's scattered across the Local Authority Act. Now the minister can do this, and you go to another act, the minister can do. The South African Constitution is like, okay, you know what? Let's just put it here. You can all do this part.
Yeah, let's just get to this particular point. My goodness, Namibia, you guys have to learn a lesson.
But look, we should have gotten these things right from the beginning, but Namibia is like, nah.
And we had laws.
You're going to have to read all of it if you want to find who has what power. Like, for the love of God.
I mean, really, I've seen it's like that rabbit run. Remember the rabbit run that I came and told you about? The thing that has been haunting me since last year when we had that conversation. No, not last year. Since 2024, when we had the conversation with Kanjengo here in studio, the one about property and land.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to find this piece of legislation. Where's this legislation that says brick and mortar is the absolute only material that needs to be used in construction? For me to find it in a City of Windhoek council document.
So it's part of their bylaws, I assume.
Wow, because if you go and Google search bylaws, you won't find the word or anything bylaws. You'll find two sets of documents.
Yeah.
Something completely different, and then the one where I found the per pound or per...
where they're measuring, imperial metrics.
Yeah, where they were using the imperial metrics, the imperial system in terms of measurements, in terms of the kinds of materials that you were using, and timber. They had timber as a reference, as a construction, just to know that how few timber is used in modern construction in Namibia.
Yeah, it's barely used.
Timber is only used in what you call it, in when you put up your bulks.
Okay, like when you're
your wooden beams.
Yeah, when you're
basically
when you're laying you're laying your beams.
Yeah, for your roof.
Yeah, for your roofing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But walls
foundation.
We are brick and mortar.
Zero, Helmut.
But should we have gone with wood though for construction?
It would have been problematic. I'll say problematic because where do you get the resource from?
It's unsustainable.
Yeah.
And now the thing is, we are construction is one of those things that was pointed out by the International Energy Agency as one of the major emitting industries in terms of energy transition and a change. The construction industry being part of the energy transition and environmental protection.
Yeah.
In relations to climate change, obviously.
Well, we also don't want houses like the US, where just a little bit of a wind shows up.
Yeah.
And then you see there goes your pondok. You're like, it's here, bruh, I still have to pay it off. What are you blowing to?
Okay, but how do insurance companies survive that though? Because if I was an insurance company, I would want something that is actually, strong enough so I don't have to worry about, me having to sign a check for in an insurance claim every now and then.
That's the thing, Hamud. In the US, it's a bit weird because that technically means the insurance companies basically approve this along with their banking companies.
Okay.
To say basically, yes, we support in the event that you build in a zone which is a high tornado risk zone, like Texas, like the state of Texas, like the state of Alabama, like the state of Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri. No, yeah, the state of Missouri, the state of Louisiana, the state of Florida, which is hurricane prone.
Yeah.
And who's the other state? And the state of Kansas, the state of Arkansas, the state of, what's the other ones right next to it? And Ohio as well. All those guys here in the middle that just brought on here to that Gulf of Mexico, not Gulf of US, Gulf of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys are literally prone to tornadoes and hurricanes.
I don't think they can claim insurance for that because that would be most likely fall under force majeure, aka
Act of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, Hamut. It's actually from the American insurance that term actually comes from. Act of God.
What's the point of signing for a home insurance then if I know that it's most likely going to be destroyed by an act of God?
If
and
there's
I
a
won't
Section
claim
19 going like, you know what? If the weather shows up,
everything.
If the weather shows up, we can't insure you. But you knew that the local authority was giving away properties in a flood-prone area. You knew the local authority was allowing developments in a hurricane-prone area.
It's a legalized scam.
It is, basically. In all honesty, it technically is, because it's a human approving something else for another human, and then another human liking this approval and going like, you know what, under these conditions, since we know that the wind blows a bit too strong there where you stay, we will put in act of God. Now you need to go find, okay, God, do you exist or not? Now you have to go stand literally in front of a court and prove or disprove a hypothesis that this being exists or not.
That renders the whole and the most painful thing is that, oh no, it's even worse because when you think of it, for you to access financing for your home, isn't insurance going to be part of the agreement?
Definitely.
So
insurance is
so the banks will be like, you know what, okay,
you must sign this document.
Sign this document that also
now while you're paying back the bank, you are also paying insurance.
And when the act of God happens,
because the bank knew. Look, listen, you didn't build the house. The house was already there.
Yeah.
So the bank knew that this house stands in a flood prone / or a hurricane prone or / tornado prone area. The bank knows this because they also know geography. They know this. And in the event specifically that the thing actually shows up, now the property gets damaged. Now suddenly it's a discussion of, yeah, look here, you sign on this thing that says act of God, not covered. But if you knew the house stands in this area, why are you giving me insurance?
Why do you build it with material that can easily be...
Why did you approve the sale? Why did you approve the construction in this area?
That's cutthroat capitalism.
That's why I said a little bit earlier.
Okay, but isn't that again counter environmental protection because you have to constantly cut down wood to build or to keep building all these houses that are constantly being blown up?
Yes.
So at this point, we are just, we're willing to make money even if we have to set the planet on fire. Look, this is why I keep arguing that this whole let's colonize Mars, is the stupidest idea ever.
Oh, it's an Elon Musk idea. We know which African that is.
Look, the people that are coming together and saying, you know what, let's go and colonize Mars, which is a literal desert.
It's Dialogue's club of guys.
Now, you see, that's part of the problem.
Yeah. They call themselves Dialogue.
Dialogue.
Of all labels, they use the word dialogue. As if they are... I don't know if it's dialogue between... Who's got the biggest bank account?
The moderator of the event runs a Christian organization, and you are here telling me let's wait until marriage. Aye.
On that note, guys, let's see each other again, same time, same place tomorrow. David is right here. He's basically evicting us.
Yeah, boy.
We're thankful for that for now. But we'll see each other again, same time, same place.
At least, I really tried until the end of the show, but, until tomorrow, same time, same place.
Yep.
Have a good one.
lipuranengeno wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondudu toingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado nawa nuneudio o tukwetera o speciala ngeta shake ngeshifa o marudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamo ili nawa ningepata fanona Monica ko Eagle FM onora tatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile ko mberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu matatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081 270 3727 or the office number 083 2888 400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
Not fraud, it's a scandal.
Scandal.
Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Happy Juju, how are you? What are you doing? Why are you not picking up my phone?
Well, David Chombe, I'm just scrolling through my phone, going through my WhatsApp, my Facebook, and all that.
Serious, what's the time now?
Wait, it's almost 1800 hours. I need to tune into Eagle FM. Business Economic segment is about to play now.
Yes, listen to Business and Economic segment with David Shombe from 1800 hours to 1900 hours when we talk about business, economics, trade, and current affairs. Do not miss out if you want to learn and move forward with economic advancement.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Business and Economic segment with me, David Shombe. It's that time of the early evening that we look at the affairs of business and everything that affect our bread and butter. It's the 29th of June, 2026, 8 minutes past the hour of 6. And this is our platform that we track progress of development. We look at what is working, what is not working, what needs to be done, especially when we are speaking about where we want to get into. And that destination we want to get into is 2030. Welcome, and understand that today's discussion will be able to look at the Namibia Statistic Agency, particularly looking at the strategy that is looking on development of statistics, and also the strategy that is looking at cohesion of institutions, and also how can policymakers, how can developmental institutions stop operating in silos and make sure that we get the Namibia that we want, the Namibia that is, we are not only hoping in terms of development, but we are using data, statistics, and quality information that can assist us to track progress in developmental affairs. And we see that a lot of Namibians, they are also looking ahead and looking up to, especially when it comes to supporting of the African teams that in the World Cup. Speak about DRC, speak about Senegal, speak about Egypt, and speak about Morocco and Cape Verde. We're asking a question to say, is this the time that the World Cup for the first time will be able to come into Africa, or is just another trial that we are entering into? South Africa is out, but we must really thank them. The like of Evidence Makopa, them, and also Mokoena, they did their best. But the aim is for victory. You know, in any battle, there is always one victor. You cannot say you tried so hard, but you failed. But people should not be stopped
when it comes to praising them for the work that they have done. Before we look at the conversation for today, because we have a conversation with a doctor. It's not a medical doctor. We speak about the people who went to school. But the good thing about this doctor is that instead of staying in academia, he realized to say it's quite necessary to practically apply the knowledge and skills that he got, especially when it comes to statistics. We are going to speak with Dr. Isaac Nem, and he's one of the executives, especially when it comes to Namibia Statistic Agency. And that conversation, we only have it especially from the hour of 6:30 there. And before we look at that, we need also to look at what is happening around the continent of Africa, what is happening when it comes to the Middle East, and also what is happening when it comes to Namibia. In the case of South Africa, two things happen. In the weekend, the former deputy head of crime intelligence was shot and is in a critical condition. And one of the men who appeared at the commission, that is General Feroz Khan, is one of the senior police officials, especially when you speak about the most important branch of fighting criminals. But in that aspect, he was supposed to testify in the court this week, but he was gunned down. Luckily enough, he's in a critical condition. It's also something that led us to question to say, can you really have development without security? Can you really have development when the security clusters are fighting each other? Then the critical question that we should ask ourselves is that what lesson can Namibia learn from what is happening in South Africa? Especially where you have a divided South Africa police is divided. You have generals on the other side. You also have the cabal on the other side. You have politics inside. And also, how do we separate security clusters from politics? Because those who do not understand, they think security is a political tool. But in the foundation of any state, security clusters were supposed to be independent so that they protect the interests of the state, not the interests of those who are in power. But let's wait and see what is happening in South Africa. On top of that, there is also an interesting thing that is happening, which need our critical attention, and everybody is looking to say, what will happen to the sons and daughters of Africa, especially tomorrow, the 30th of June. That is a D-Day. It's a day that was set there to say, if you are still in South Africa and you don't have documents and you are doing works that were supposed to be done by South Africans, it's going to be very difficult. The question is that are Namibians safe? And if they are not safe, what measures in place are put out there? And also something that we should also ask ourselves to say, how come you have 10,000 Malawians in South Africa? What is that we did not do right? Because we cannot just say, no, our people must be protected. There must be something that we must look at, especially when we speak about a critical self-assessment to say, for us to have our people leaving the country and they do not even care what they are going to do there. Some people do not document, they end up working in a salon. How come, what caused an individual to leave his country and go to work in a salon in another country, particularly looking at South Africa? What made that person to leave his own country and become a taxi driver in South Africa? But the question is that what will happen, especially tomorrow? But one of the things that has been happening is that Ramaphosa, being known as a smooth political operator, has been meeting with Amazulu Kingdom king, that is king king of Amazulu, especially when you speak about those who are in charge of Amazulu Kingdom, and you are speaking about King Misizulu Zoretini, who is having command too, particularly when it's coming to traditional affairs. Let's see what will happen tomorrow. But what is interesting is also that the acting police minister in South Africa, they put around 600 million on the table to say this is for safety. But are they able to work and protect everybody. And, I'm always asking myself a question, especially when I look at a country such as Malawi. When citizens say we want to come back at home because the 30th of June we might lose our lives, the government said we are busy fundraising because there is no money. Around 3,000, they are back at home. But if you look on social media, if you look on TV, you can be able to see that it's a crisis. It's dangerous. And what is the spillover of this? Because if some people, they start running away, they can go through the fence, they can go through the river. Then you also start dealing with the problem here. But in terms of long-term solution, what is that we need to do? Especially to make sure that people do not hate home, but make sure that they are very happy when they are at home and they are given that opportunity. But what is happening around, especially these days, is really in line with our conversation, because data-driven development is the only way. You cannot develop on hope. You cannot develop on a political manifesto that is not attached to any statistics. And we have to be honest with ourselves to say, if you are saying this, do you have informed information? But for now, let's look at the short commercial break. From there, we can be able to continue with our conversation. However, you can still engage us in the studio, because this is it's a conversational program. You can engage us in the studio at 083-288-401, 083-288-401, so that you can air your view, give your opinion, and also your constructive criticism. Because there is a saying that presenting an argument, presenting a presentation, and everybody is agreeing with you, that is becoming very problematic. There was one Roman emperor who, when he came to power, he have seen and observed what had been happening. And if you read history, you understand Octavian. When he came to power, one thing that he did is that when he presented the motion to his minister or his courtiers, everybody agreed, and he said, no, we are going to do that tomorrow until I get somebody who criticizes me. Because a fair policy must have both sides that are trying to find a solution. You can't be correct every day. That is the reason of this program, to make sure that constructive criticism, developmental debate, and also practical solutions are driven. So let's look at a short commercial break, then we can continue with the conversation for today.
lipuranengeno wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondudu toingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna evitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondadoi nawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamwili nawa ningepata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora tatu imwe bali heali nola natu heali bali no heali ile ko berewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff.
Lipuranengeno wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondudu toingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna evitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondadoi nawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamwili nawa ningepata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora tatu imwe bali heali nola natu heali bali no heali ile ko berewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events. And basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081 270 3727 or the office number 083 2888 400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that doesn't have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Happy Juju, how are you? What are you doing? Why are you not picking up my phone?
Well, David Chombe, I'm just scrolling through my phone, going through my WhatsApp, my Facebook, and all that.
Serious, what's the time now?
Wait, it's almost 1800 hours. I need to tune into Eagle FM. Business Economic segment is about to play now.
Yes, listen to Business and Economic segment with David Shombe from 1800 hours to 1900 hours when we talk about business, economics, trade, and current affairs. Do not miss out if you want to learn and move forward with economic advancement.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Yeah, we are moving forward with Business and Economic segment with me, David Shombe. It's 22 minutes past the hour of 6, and we are here until the hour of 7. Again, what is happening in the continent of Africa, it is stated that the United States of America hope to get shares of Democratic Republic of Congo copper production. That is what is happening. Stated that in a vast warehouse of Kamoa copper mine in Southern Democratic Republic of Congo, where there is high quality copper, stated that United States companies are trying to find a way, especially to get shares when it comes to copper in Democratic Republic of Congo. Looking at that, it is stated that Kamoa is one of the largest copper mines in the world and is growing to become one of number one in Africa and probably the fourth largest in the world. To look into that context of mining affairs, it is stated that by 2028, in terms of prediction, that copper mine will have capacity to produce 500,000 tons of copper. Now, to look into this context, one may be able also to ask a question to say, when it comes to the USA and minerals, why they are so much interested in minerals? They are so much interested in minerals because the world is moving toward advanced technology. We speak about machine learning. We speak about drones. We speak about the war is no more fought with AK-47 Assad rifle. People are using now drones and advanced technology. That's why when it comes to African countries, there are two things which are happening. You have an investor from Asia, that is China. Then you also have investors from the western part of the world, that is UK or European Union, and also the United States of America. But the question that we're asking ourselves is that when it comes to that context, where are the African leaders, and also what are some of the direction, especially when it comes to Africa and value addition? Is there any chance of adding value, or is just a chance of capitalizing? But one thing that you also need to know and to look into that you don't need to blame Americans, especially when they are doing their job well. You know, there is a word of diplomacy that indicating that a diplomat is somebody who can jump into water without making any sound. You know, I like watching and also see on social media, especially, which to me I think is really not fair, when you see Namibians looking at, there's a new US ambassador and he's around every strategic economic aspect. To me, that is a sign of a good diplomat for his country, because he is sent to pursue their interest. The question we should ask ourselves is that, are we winning at that diplomatic table? Because to him, he's a good diplomat for his country. The question that we should ask ourselves is that, when Namibian diplomats are seeing the proactive American diplomat or American ambassador moving around Namibia, because to him it's very clear, he knows exactly what he wants. Do we know what you want when you go to other countries? Or we are just taking photo opportunities? To me, I think if it was your person doing it in other country, it would be a different thing. That is what we need to understand, because there is nothing wrong. You know, when he came, he made his presence. There is nothing wrong trying to do what is good for a country. The question is that country that you are into awake? Because I don't find it fair you are insulting somebody to say, no, he's here to take what. People do not have guns. People are on the table. Another gentleman on the other side, the American ambassador on this side. Are we winning at that negotiation? Nobody is forcing you. You can say no. The question is that, are we winning when it comes to economic diplomacy? We don't need to be scared. We need to play that game, because we are also part of those, diplomatic convention. Speak about rules of engagement, particularly that are governing diplomats. And there's nothing wrong, because he's everywhere. Business meetings, critical strategic sectors of uranium, looking at the green hydrogen. And he's saying Namibia is a fertile land, especially to strengthen cooperation. Are we also saying the same with other countries? Because if there is only thing that we can look at, especially with U.S. ambassador, we must learn. We do not need to be scared. We must learn from him to say, how do you do it? And when he is not following the laws, then we can do that instead of the social media attack. I don't think it's necessary. Let's just look at how we can play that economic diplomatic game, because Namibians have also been around. But are we winning looking at that aspect? If you look at copper, for example, DRC is the second largest producer of copper, and number one in terms of producing cobalt. You realize that DRC, in terms of minerals and values, it is the richest country in the world in terms of minerals and also deposits, critical rare earth minerals. But when it comes to human development, it's also one of the poorest in terms of human development. To say people are sitting on top of gold and honey, but when it comes to upgrading of human lives, then is the other thing. You can also ask the same question with Namibia. Is the presence of natural resources a guarantee to eradication of poverty? Because if you don't answer that question, then we are not going to be different from Democratic Republic of Congo. Is the presence of natural resources, is the presence of critical rare earth minerals a guarantee of poverty eradication? The same question too that we are asking to say, is the presence of uranium, being the third largest producer of uranium, we are even better than Canada. Does it guarantee development? Does it guarantee human upliftment? If not, what can be done? So that would definitely bring us to today's conversation. That is data-driven development. And today I was very happy to go to Avani, not only to a place, but I was very happy to see various senior government leaders from OPM, looking at Governor of Commerce. You have speakers of National Council, Deputy Speaker of National Council. You have private sector. Then one of the things that I find out when you read the room, you understand that all these leaders agreed that there is no development that is going to happen unless there is collaboration. And the presenters of data, the NSA, and I don't want to speak for them, they stood up and say, we are supposed to be the national coordinators of data. We need funds. We need to cooperate with each other and collaborate. And they say, colleagues, we are fragmented. We are fragmented. And that also cement what has been already said, to say Namibia is strategically positioned. Namibia have resources. The problem that we have is that we have competing institutions, even public sector institutions which are in competition with each other, which we're supposed to work together. That's why today, that strategy that is National Strategy for Development of Statistics 2023-2024 to 2026-2027 has indicated that consolidating of data and also coordination are key priorities, and most importantly, funding too. But for us to look into this conversation, I want you to listen to the conversation that I had with one of the good doctor. It's not a medical doctor, I said, it's a doctor of statistics. It's not only somebody who went to school, but also practically apply those knowledge that he has gained, especially to look at his argument that he presented today. Why that strategy now? What is different? What is new? How can we link the relationship between political communication and also result-driven development? If I say, for example, I'm going to produce 500,000 jobs, where am I? You know, the other time, this institution, NIDA, at one point they presented a strategic plan. They say, no, this one is it's in line with Penga Act. It's a very beautiful strategic plan that can assist us to reach where we want to get into. But in that strategic plan, they said 30,000 jobs by 2030. You are asking yourself to say, I think by 2030 we are going to become paradise. The question is that what informed that data? What informed that number? But let us look at this conversation and come back shortly. Yeah, we are moving forward with business and economic segment. Today we are speaking about statistics. We are speaking about data-driven development. However, today in the studio I'll be joined by Dr. Isaac Nema. He's an executive for data quality assurance at NSA. And to speak about the new strategy that is looking at Namibia, National Strategy for Development of Statistics, he gave a brilliant presentation, pointed out some of the challenges within the Namibia statistic in general, and also look at the aspect of collaboration of institutions. But just to bring you in the studio, Dr. Nema, to give an overview, especially of today's focus on national strategy. Good evening, and how are you doing?
Good evening. We are doing fine. Yeah. Thank you for having us, as always.
Yeah,
we're looking forward to share with your listeners as to what we're doing this afternoon.
Yeah, just to give us an overview, particularly to today's presentation, I don't want you to go back, just to give an overview, particularly those who are listening, either is a data scientist, developmental planner, a counselor, and also to a politician. What is the main message if somebody has to ask you, particularly from today's presentation?
Yeah, the main message was really just to synthesize our, political, heads in the commerce region as to the availability of the national strategy for the development of statistics. It's a strategy which is coming over 3 years ago, and we are just now busy synthesizing to make them aware so that when we are starting now to implement, we have a buy-in from them and support from them as well. So that was really the issue, the cornerstone of today's message.
I see the President and also the Director General of National Planning Commission have been speaking about monitoring and evaluation, speaking about data-driven development. To look at, maybe just to give a key strategic objective that this strategy is focusing on, and for how long, and what is needed, apart from you being the custodian or NSA being the custodian of this initiative, what is needed from other stakeholders? Let us start from strategic objectives.
Yeah, no, the strategy is a 4-year strategy. We wanted to make it a 5th year, but we have to go along because of the NSA strategic plan that is coming to an end, and we needed to align. Now, the strategy is talking to 4 areas. The first one is to make statistics available. We know that statistics is there in your offices, and we want statistics to be available in the public domain. We also need to enhance our production processes, as well as, to consolidate our funding. And very importantly, nowadays, people don't develop statistics just for the sake of statistics and produce statistics for the sake of it. But we need to know the locations in which these people are. And this is why we are bringing in the element of integration of statistics with spatial data. Yeah, that will then give a comprehensive overview for somebody who want to plan.
Yeah, what do you expect from stakeholders? We know that there is a lot of players in the area of statistics, but when people are speaking about national, NSA is there number one. But what do you expect from stakeholders that they are not doing now, especially to the realization of this strategy?
Yeah, we did an assessment when we were coming up with this strategy, and that assessment has pointed to so many issues with the national statistics system. One of the issues that we are pointed is lack of capacity to produce statistics. So we expect producers to implement the strategic framework fully, and also to ensure that the element that needed to be strengthened, they are working together with the NSA to strengthen those components. Key to that is the availability of data. We want the data that is not in the public domain to be able to be brought to the public domain, but only when they are satisfied that they are official statistics and they are data that are of good quality. And this is really why we needed, our principals to understand the framework and to make sure that they give the support to our technical staff in our institution to work together with the NSA in the refinement of the information in their own institutions.
Yeah, Doctor, there is something that I wanted you again to go into detail or to explain a little bit, especially when it comes to collaboration and also institutional coordination. When we look at the African peer review mechanism, every time they are doing a study on Namibia, that thing is coming out to say Namibian institutions are not coordinating. Namibian institutions, they may be in the same space, but they look like they are not, working together, or they are competing, even public, sectors, institution. To look at the point where you are standing and looking at this from a strategic point of view, what is that you are going to do different, or what is that the institution is going to do different, especially to make sure that coordination and collaboration among stakeholders is strengthened, not moving this side, you are moving this side, but to make sure that institution, particularly institution of the states, are working together?
Yeah. No, the first and foremost thing that we are going to do is to enhance capacity.
Yeah.
That capacity building is not targeted for NSA staff. It's targeted for producers, institutions that are either government institutions or other sectors that are playing a key role in the production of statistics. Our assessment has indicated that there is a lot of mistrust in terms of data use, just because people are not aware of the quality of the statistics, and also the people that are producing those statistics are not up to the level that is required. And I think this is really why we needed to have this event today to talk to our principals so that they can assist us when it comes to the implementation of the goals of the strategy. Another element that we are also going to look is coordination mechanism. The framework itself is a coordination mechanism. We also have other coordination mechanism like the Namibia Quality Assurance Framework, the National Spatial Data Infrastructure. Those are coordination mechanisms that we are implementing. So we just want to make sure that everybody who is a key producer of data is implementing the framework as part of the coordination mechanism. Yeah.
Just one more before you go to the last question. There is a central part of finance and also funding. Data are necessary to determine what we lost, what we are able to gain, but implementation of this strategy, you also need funds. To look into that aspect, if you were standing on the other side, especially budgeting for statistics, there was something that mentioned to say, no, people, they are not really looking at the quality of statistics. I want you to start with quality of numbers in national development. Then you speak about the funding. How can this initiative be supported? And what are some of the mechanisms which need to be done to look into that?
Yeah, I can safely say Namibia relied heavily on primary data collection. And the primary data collection are very expensive endeavors. And this is why the funding that we are talking about from the framework perspective is that we need to coordinate so that we share resources. Of course, government is the number one de facto funder of national statistics, and we want it to be that way. We don't want the government to run away from funding statistics, because statistics must be funded at the same time we are funding education, we are funding health, and other important critical aspects of our economy. Statistics must also be funded. in a nutshell, when we are coordinating, we simply just want the resources to be shared among ourselves, so that we are able then to conduct those critical undertaking that inform our economy. Secondly, the strategy has now unearthed to say yes, as much as primary data collection are becoming more and more expensive, we need to move away, just like any other countries are doing, into administrative data. And this is why components of producers that are key in producing admin records must then come into implementing the framework as part of the collective.
Yeah, just lastly, monitoring and evaluation and tracking of progress. From where you are standing, what do you think need to be done? Personally, I'm very much interested in tracking of progress of development. We see a lot of numbers. CNDP 5, we know they are made because of the information that are provided by NSA. Technocrats and also economists and a lot of professionals are involved into that aspect. But you are an expert in statistics. You have been around academia and all these things. Why our monitoring and evaluation in Namibia is always very difficult? Last year, a journalist approached DG for National Planning Commission and said, no, people are not submitting their data. But just, I think a month ago, there was a public-private sector forum that is looking at monitoring and evaluation to be the priority. Now, why is a problem, and what do we need to do to make sure that we track progress?
Yeah, it's so simple. You see, monitoring is a two component. There's a component of monitoring, and there's a component of evaluation. We run and do monitoring, no problem. That's why you see officials crisscrossing the country, looking at projects and all these other things. They are doing monitoring, but maybe not data monitoring. Now, secondly, the evaluation part, that evaluation component needs data. Without data, evaluation cannot take place. And this is why we have problems, because we don't have data. Those that have data are not releasing the data. Those that are supposed to produce data are also not producing them accurately because of budgetary issues. And this is why we are coming in to say, yes, we cannot necessarily just rely on primary data. We need to go to secondary data, because these are the data that we are collecting on a daily basis.
Yes, just final words, especially to developmental planners and the researchers out there, especially looking at the strategies.
Yeah, no, the strategy is not for the NSA. The strategy is for all of us as planners and as those that produce statistics. We just want to encourage you to look at the strategy, and the NSA is coming to liaise with you and take your hand in developing your own statistics in your own sectors.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is Dr. Isaac Nem, especially from NSA, looking at the strategy on developmental statistics, or statistics for development. And it's a strategy that can be seen by everybody. And also to look at the aspect of the value of data and information, to say when you are in a certain constituency, do you have a councillor who know how many businesses are there? How many young graduates are there? How many young women are not going to school? How many school dropouts? Because you need to know us before you promise us something. That's why, and there is also something that I started realizing to say, when we start speaking more about the problem, you realize to say that there is a bit of a shift, especially when it comes to our leaders. I see that when you see something coming out every time, it means that there's a shift in the mind and people are interested in looking into that. For now, let us look at USAFE and come back shortly after this.
Do you need toiletries and household cleaners? You won't get it cheaper than at USAVE up to the 7th of June. Get 250mm jars of Vaseline for only 25 Namibian dollars. Smell fresh with Playboy roll-on deodorant for just 18.99 Namibian dollars. Get 2 kilograms of Surf's hand washing powder for just 49.99 Namibian dollars. Get 750ml Sunlight dishwashing liquid for 28.99 Namibian dollars. And get 2 boxes of Cares Maxi sanitary pads for only 12.99 Namibian dollars. USAVE, where else?
Lipura nengeno wapumbwa Eva
Yeah, we are moving forward with business and economic segment. As I indicated that there is no development without tracking of progress, and there is no development without planning with quality data. And one thing that we started seeing is that in that presentation, there's also something that, when it comes to data, you realize that some surveys, they are 12 years behind. And the question is also, one of the critical questions that was asked is that also to say, yes, we understand that data are very important, information is important, particularly up-to-date information. But the question is that in the current circumstances that we are, what other things can be done apart from funding? But the simple answer that was given is that collaboration can be the key, especially when it comes to saving of resources, even saving of transport, cost. Because one presentation or one example that was given is that if the Ministry of Health is conducting a certain survey, and you also find out that national planning is also here, or you also find out that NSA is also here doing another survey, why can't this institution collaborate? What is so difficult for institutions to collaborate? And you also start realizing that when public institutions start to become very competitive with each other, you find those who are performing well, and you also find out those who are far behind. You can ask a very simple question to say, why an agency such as NAMRA have very strong and quality data or very strong system, but when you look at other institutions, you hardly find any data. Even in terms of infrastructure, they are not the same. But the question maybe that we should also ask to say, at what level these institutions have to collaborate with each other? And the other thing is also that apart from MOU being signed every day, how can sister institutions, particularly SOEs, work together for development of the country? Working with economic data, I also start saying that when you look at commercial banks, for example, and these guys are very smart and very clever. The commercial banks in Namibia, they have data. They have quality information. They invest in research. They invest in cybersecurity. And at some point, they also cooperate, although they are competitor. The question should always be to say, how can public sector learn from that? And maybe also to look at academic institutions. Every day we are hearing about research. Somebody obtain a PhD. Another person is obtaining a PhD. Another one is obtaining a master's degree. The question is that apart from now using secondary data, what is the investment of that institution? What is the investment of that private institution, especially when it comes to research? And how are they able to coordinate with NSA? What I've seen today is also that sometimes we spend more money in things that are already available. Just because an institution wants to find certain information, instead of going to NSA and ask to say, do you have this information? They go into the field. And that is also the problematic part of poor coordination, particularly when it comes to institutions. So, dear listeners, it's 49 minutes past the hour of 6. We have around a good 10 minutes before we come to the end of our conversation. And also before we go and watch the matches, especially looking at African teams. This time, we are looking at African teams to say, if we still have numbers, if we lose some at the round of 32, at least by the time we go to round of 16, we lose some. By the time we are going to blink, the 16th of June or July, we'll find ourselves with few, even 3, that are at quarter before we sort them out at final. But for now, let's look at the short commercial break. Then we can continue with the conversation. You can still engage us in the studio at 083-288-401, 083-288-401.
lipurane ngeno wapombwa eva tere ulikoni maundu tutoingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapombwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna emitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado inawa nuneudo otukwetera o speciala ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayoloka opone ushendife nawa nokumona oijamweli nawa ningekwatafano na monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile komberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff.
Lipuranengelo wapumbwa Eva tere ulikoni maondo tuto ingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukara ya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna evitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado inawa nuneudo otukwetera o speciala ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayoloka opone ushendife nawa nokumona oijamweli nawa ningekwatafano na monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile komberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081 270 3727 or the office number 083 2888 400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You're the person that doesn't have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Happy Juju, how are you? What are you doing? Why are you not picking up my phone?
Well, David Chombe, I'm just scrolling through my phone, going through my WhatsApp, my Facebook, and all that.
Serious, what's the time now?
Wait, it's almost 1800 hours. I need to tune into Eagle FM. Business Economic segment is about to play now.
Yes, listen to Business and Economic segment with David Shombe from 1800 hours to 1900 hours when we talk about business, economics, trade, and current affairs. Do not miss out if you want to learn and move forward with economic advancement.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Yeah, it's 54 minutes past the hour of 6, and we are listening to Business and Economic segment with me, David Shombe. And looking at new development, especially in the Namibian business space, they stated that Telecom Namibia has appointed Armando Perni. It's not Penny, not my colleague. It's Armando Perni, who has been Chief Marketing Officer at Telecom. And the question is that, looking at the background and the profile of Armando Perni, is that he's an electrical engineer. He's an electrical engineer from obtaining his qualification from Cape Peninsula University of Technology, and also a graduate of Stellenbosch, particularly when it comes to management development program, and also studies Masters of Business Management, and he's replacing, or he's acting, because we understand that Dr. Stanley Shanapinda is also going due to another responsibility, especially at the regional level. And you're asking yourself to say, when you have a new engineer in the house, what are the new things that Armando Perni will be able to bring, especially institutional transformation? And also, it's not in the news, especially when it comes to connectivity, to say Namibia is moving toward data-driven development, and one of the world's most invested part of infrastructure is data centers, and also strong connectivity. But how is Armando Perni going to transform telecom, particularly at that point of appointment as an acting CEO? Because looking into the weekend, somebody may was also asking to say, was it a welcome, especially when it's come to the connectivity? Was it a welcoming party, or is ready to put things in place? But everybody is hoping that all Namibian institutions, particularly that are dealing with technology, to be fast, efficient, and also can assist connectivity, because nowadays business without online connectivity is nothing. Politics without online connectivity is nothing. Activists without online connectivity is nothing. That's why the environment now, online platform is part of the environment. That's why if you find an institution without a WhatsApp group now, they are living in the 1980s, because being online become a necessity and part of fast communication in terms of information. That's why it's quite important to see that when a new captain of industry appointed, what new strategies are they able to bring on the table? And yeah, that will bring us to the end of our conversation. And the question is that where are we watching the game? Where are we watching the game? Especially looking at Netherlands versus Morocco. But this shift in terms of geographical position, in terms of the World Cup, it's very difficult for us, especially watching the game, after midnight. And but it's good. Somebody was making a joke to say there's a chance that Africa is going to win the World Cup because they are playing us at the time that our grannies are awake. But that was just a joke that was given. But also to look and see, to say, how is Morocco going to play? And also other teams too. To say, let's the best team win. But from me, David Shombe, bye-bye for now. See you around. And also, see you tomorrow. Take care of yourself. And also understand that tomorrow is month end. June is coming to an end. If you did not make it in the past 6 months, you still have a chance. And the main competition must be yourself. That's why if you are looking at others, then you are already fading in life. Because if you want to move forward, don't compete with other people. When you see that other people are 700 kilometers away, what if they are driving a Tangi Botswana, you are waiting for a private jet? You need to make sure that you have your own strategy too. You must learn from NSA. So you must also have your own strategic objective. Not like others, but we are in the same journey. So bye-bye, see you around. And I'll leave you in the good hands of Mtuma team, particularly Uncle Fly and Dokapateka Toka from Ondangwa. Bye-bye, sharp, and see you.
Lipuranengelo wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maundu tutoingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna evitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado inawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngeta shake ngeshe fa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oija.
Care that helps you care for others. That's the basic mental health first aid course, free for NHP members. You'll learn how to spot early signs of mental or emotional distress in friends, family, or colleagues, and how to guide them to the right support before small struggles become bigger problems. Learn more and register for free at nhp.com.na. T's and C's apply. NHP, rooted in care for you.
Your health, your life, your peace of mind. NHP, we're
you.
Marudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oija mwili nawa ningepata fanona Monica ko Eagle FM onora itatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile ko mberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff.
Ngelo wapumbwa Eva tere ulikoni maondo tuto ingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile. Oshafafana nongeshe faili mehola mo iho etike kovano ile koshiwana. Onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano. Okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu konda doi nawa. Nuneudo o tukwetera o speciala ngeta shake ngeshefa o marudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oija mwili nawa ningepata fanona Monica ko Eagle FM onora itatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile ko mberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried? Don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081 270 3727 or the office number 083 2888 400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Na tuchita nkuya kutumone tupembako o tupandura David Sombe ngone tupembako pesimboja paife tachurike na kuchokhea linomete dhili mbali. Programa eto ntumwa ilimombepo o ikala mewili kola ntankolo mapamwe na Rwanda o ndwete ngana tukawili ko programa eto. Na tumu kale keno kuntokeleza kominga dhili no dhili o kuziro kuningino o ku mbangantu no bugantu yinenge topo umbugantu kaishu topo pen bugantu ndeto kuchoko sasa nga kurukadi oko sasa kumbugantu oko kombinga yi yokonori ngasha atushitana ikuna taikolokane mara kati nyangwane ewa ande kucha kosa tha konga kumbu antu manga ko kurukadi no komba no ai ni shete manga lina shanyenge yeshi ano o tenkundira pa muke nambono muri ponjo shiro mwa garampra kene gerefe mana tenkundira po programa etu limo mbepo kutameka paifes ko tundi ontin milongo mbali na imwe yalatu kucha otunje ntingoi ya o programa etu nina atukapyo shimwe simananga tukakwatarano ya kwetu etu pomo yerere o ngashi ona tangu tucheni kucha South Africa o South Africa o enje ngani atula mota atula mekanka ngura kucha ina khala ya forena kakele tsena mbye tofunga tulimona wakashona nande twakalinto o kambesa que tu consamane nenge com nange shefa bishi ya kakele otapo pingane kucha ondariba tomo unene tomo namibio datiro kuya komanga komingano no ya tegana no mas komirongo ndatu ngura nguna kana nguru nakana mirongo ndatu shosongo yatire kucha no mirongo ndatu taka ninge kanka namba ni nayo bako shalo mbura ko yakwane ko anzo mikukutweli hono ta tuite kucha taka ningangane ini mangika pamwe imwe ili siko paife tapangane kucha baadhi di kwa yali as Mozambique adipa wa South Africa kwa tulangane miku mungushono amwenje manangani kuna muni ponga ya dengwanga akere enjo tapo bingu cha yali adi kwa ya adi pawa o maswazi kongane a Mozambique uneno tatara andunga sia Nigeria, Uganda, Ghana,